I'm a 35-year-old office worker, and my husband Kevin, who is 6 years older, and I have been married for 9 years. Right now, due to some reasons, I'm living with my mom. Let me explain how I ended up in this situation. 4 years ago, Kevin and I built a house. At that time, Kevin had just changed jobs, and we didn't have much money saved or a big income. Kevin used to work for a big company, but he faced constant hidden bullying from his boss. This caused him sleep problems, and eventually he couldn't go to work anymore. He saw a psychiatrist, took a break for about 3 months, but when he didn't get better, he quit his job. After that, we got by on just my salary. Kevin didn't work for 3 months, but slowly started to feel better. He began eating and sleeping well again, and his psychiatrist was pleased with his quick recovery. My cheerful, loving Kevin was back. He then started looking for a new job. His experience at the big company helped, but finding a job was hard because he left his last job due to mental health issues. During this time, we found a small company that needed him. The salary was about a third of what he used to make, but he was happy to be working again. He said it was much better than being without a job, which made me happy. This job was also in the field he wanted to work in. We wanted to have children, but it was clear that life would be tough if I stopped working, so I continued working. I also love my job, and we decided not to have children at that time. Since it was just the 3 of us, our life was peaceful until my mother, Sarah, was paralyzed in a car accident and needed a wheelchair to get around. My dad had passed away when I was in middle school, and Sarah had been living alone since then. Our family home was old and not suitable for a wheelchair, with many steps. Kevin then said, "I'm worried, let's live together." Sarah and I were surprised, but I appreciated Kevin's unexpected kindness. Since Kevin had just changed jobs, we were unsure about the future, but we decided to apply for a mortgage. As we expected, it was tough to get a loan because Kevin hadn't been at his job for long. However, we were determined and didn't give up. After trying with several mortgage companies, we finally found one that worked with us and approved our loan. We bought our dream home, which I had always imagined, filled with the smell of wood, thick wooden beams on the ceiling, custom storage spaces, a kitchen tailored for my height, and spacious cypress flooring. Importantly, it was a single-story, barrier-free house, perfect for living comfortably in a wheelchair. We were excited as the house was being built and visited the construction site every day. When our carefully designed home was finished, it had a large yard where my mom, who now seldom went outside, could enjoy sunbathing. However, there was a catch with the land. It was given to us by Kevin's grandfather, who adored Kevin. Kevin's family wasn't wealthy, but when his grandfather was diagnosed with cancer, he started to distribute his assets, giving us the largest plot of land. It felt like winning the lottery, but the land was just a 10-minute walk from Kevin's family home. When we told them my mother would be moving in with us, Kevin's sister laughed and said, "Why is your mother moving in too? How shameless is your family?" Kevin's mother told me marrying someone different like you would bring trouble. She also harshly said it was terrible for her son to have to care for an old person and called me a curse. Even then, Kevin stood up for my mother and me. He said the land was a gift from his grandfather, and no one should complain. Kevin's mother and sister are really mean. It's amazing that Kevin, who is so kind, comes from that family. He's like a beautiful flower that grew out of mud. Kevin always says his family shows him how not to be. Kevin thinks his grandfather gave us the land because he wanted us to take care of his mother in her old age. He also gave other properties away. Kevin's sister got a parking lot that's a 10-minute walk from their home. It's smaller than our land but makes good money from parking fees. Honestly, I would have preferred that, but a gift is still a gift, and we are thankful. Thanks to my grandfather-in-law, we could build our house without paying for the land and used it to help get a loan. When the house was finished, we invited Kevin's mother and sister's family over. The builders told us they had visited the house several times without asking us. They showed up late without apologizing and said, "This is kind of like Grandpa's house, so it's like our house too." Kevin's sister came in with muddy shoes and said the house smelled nice and didn't need air fresheners. She and her husband walked around with muddy shoes, ignoring the slippers we offered. When I suggested they use slippers, she laughed and said it was too much trouble and we could just clean the floor. The visit was uncomfortable from the start, and they didn't bring anything with them. When they saw my mother's room, which is spacious and sunny, Kevin's mother said she would like that room. My mother's room is like a duplex with its own kitchen, almost a second living space. I want to live here, said my mother-in-law during the third point of her conversation. She then told my mother, you were lucky to have that accident, weren't you? Thanks to being paralyzed, you moved from that old shack to this nice house. Isn't that a lucky turn of events? My mother said nothing but looked very sad. I was really angry inside, but before I could say anything, Kevin spoke up. What'd you just say? There are things you should and shouldn't say. It makes me question your humanity. I can't even believe you're part of my family. You're the worst. Apologize now, Kevin demanded firmly. Whether they were amused or not, my mother and sister-in-law glared at me. Then my sister-in-law angrily asked Kevin, what's this all about? It's a total turnoff. It's not cool to invite people over and then be rude to them just because you built the house. You think you can act superior. The mother-in-law chimed in, my son messed up by marrying you. You're a jinx. Kevin didn't stay silent. Enough is enough. This mess started because of your rude comments. You said the accident was a good thing and called my wife a jinx. I will not forgive that. The mother and sister-in-law looked frustrated by Kevin's strong response. Then my mother, who had been watching everything, said with regret, it's okay. I am here because of the accident, and it's true I moved from a rundown house to this beautiful one. Your son has always been kind to me. Thank you. Perhaps feeling guilty, the mother and sister-in-law left, giving me a nasty look. My mother then apologized to Kevin. I'm sorry if I upset your mother and sister. I'm sorry for ruining the mood at our housewarming party. Kevin responded, no, I should be the one apologizing. It's embarrassing how they lack decency. I'm really sorry, but I am happy to be living with you. Please understand that. With that, my mother started to tear up. Since we live near Kevin's parents' house, the neighbors all know us well. They've known Kevin since he was a child and are very kind to us. 4 months have passed since that day. We were finally settling into our new home, and my mother started to smile more. When I received an unexpected call from home while I was at work, it surprised me. We rarely get calls from home, so it surprised me. My bad feeling was right. My mom, sounding very upset, called to tell me something awful. Kevin had collapsed at work. I was shocked and spoke to my right away. Then I rushed to the hospital. On the way, I tried to stay calm by imagining that Kevin would be okay. When I got there, joking around like always. But when I arrived, it was a shock to see him with so many tubes attached to him. We had plans to go to a movie that weekend. The doctor told me Kevin was in critical condition and might not wake up. I felt like I was in a movie. I couldn't even cry. Despite my prayers, Kevin passed away at the hospital. My shock continued as my mother and sister-in-law arrived when they heard Kevin had died. My sister-in-law accused me harshly, asking if I had poisoned him or if I was after his life insurance. My mother-in-law also blamed me, saying bad things always happen around me and called me a jinx. I was too sad to respond. Then my own mother arrived in a caregiver's taxi, crying over Kevin's death, which finally made me cry too. We both sobbed loudly. My mother-in-law rudely told us to stop the fake crying. She said Kevin had changed because of me and that she didn't want to see us ever again. Then she left the hospital. A funeral director came to organize Kevin's funeral, and we went to the funeral home. Kevin had died from a brain hemorrhage, which was hard to believe since he was fine that morning. When I told my mother-in-law the funeral plans, she hardly said she wouldn't come because Kevin always sided with my mother and me. She said her daughter wouldn't come either. Many of Kevin's coworkers and friends came to the viewing, but neither my mother nor my sister-in-law and her husband were there. Many attended the funeral, and it was clear that Kevin was deeply loved. Many people cried for him. It was hard, but maybe this is just the kind of people his family were. I was happy to spend the whole day with those who truly missed my husband. After Kevin's death, I got an email from my mother-in-law, but it was inappropriate, so I didn't reply. She was asking about the life insurance money and kept emailing because I didn't respond. Eventually, she claimed she had a right to it. I chose to ignore it because I wasn't ready to deal with that. When we got home, I noticed a light on inside, which was odd. My mother, Sarah, was confused and thought we had turned off all the lights. I figured maybe I forgot because I was so upset. I told her it was understandable given the situation, and I unlocked the door. When we entered, we could hear the TV, which was very strange. Inside, we found my sister-in-law and her husband sitting there. I was so shocked I couldn't even speak up. The living room was full of unfamiliar furniture and boxes. We had no idea what was happening. My sister-in-law said, "Why did you just barge in here?" "Well, it's your first time, so I'll let it slide. We're taking this house. We sold your stuff, so leave." My mother and I were completely shocked. I asked where our furniture and belongings had gone, and she casually said a resale company came and took everything, claiming we had good furniture and they got a good price for it. They bought new furniture with that money, saying who wants furniture that a dead person used? It's bad luck. She added that she cared about such things, and our stuff was packed in boxes. She even remarked that we must be minimalists or just poor because we had so few things. The furniture was carefully chosen by my husband, and I couldn't forgive them for this. My mom was furious too, her face turning beet red, but she was too shocked to respond. I immediately called the resale company. After explaining the situation, they agreed to treat the items as stolen and return them. Now that my husband is gone, dealing with this was the last thing I needed. I don't want anything to do with his family, but I do want to stay in the house that's full of memories of him. While I was wrestling with these feelings, my mother quietly said to me, "What do you think Kevin would say if he were here now?" "He might say we should leave. I'm sure he would. Kevin often mentioned it's good to spend time with people who understand you. But there are some people who will never understand, no matter how much you try. It's a waste of time dealing with those people." He was actually talking about his own mother and sister. I realized that if we stayed, his family would keep interfering, acting on impulse. I signed a lease for an accessible apartment. My mom was surprised by how quickly I made that decision. I asked the resale company to hold on to the furniture for a few days, and it was moved to our new apartment. 3 days later, in exchange for moving out, I made my mother-in-law and sister-in-law promise to cut ties with us. So a new life began for just my mother and me in the apartment. It turns out Kevin had many life insurance policies, almost obsessively so. He used to joke, always with a smile, "When I die, you guys will be rich." True to his word, he left enough money for my mother and me to be comfortable for the rest of our lives. Since he couldn't secure a mortgage when we bought the house, I, being employed at a major corporation, bought the house in my name. I made sure that even if something happened to Kevin first, I wasn't going to keep paying a mortgage for a house I wouldn't live in. According to our agreement, the house would be auctioned off if the mortgage wasn't paid for 4 months. Time flew by, and 4 months passed quickly. Then I started receiving a lot of calls from my sister-in-law Emily and my mother-in-law Maria. My call history was filled with their names, and it was getting scary, like something out of a horror movie. They were incredibly persistent, so I finally answered the phone. They were furious because the house was being sold. Apparently, when they tried to return to the house, they found out they couldn't get in because of a seizure notice. Emily and her husband had moved out of their apartment since Kevin passed away, and Emily had also quit her job. I suggested they move back into their parents' house since they were panicking about suddenly being homeless. Surprisingly, Maria had gotten so caught up in gambling that she couldn't keep up and had sold her own house. It turns out they had been living together for the past 5 months. I also heard that they sold their main source of income, a parking lot in front of the train station, a long time ago. Now Maria and Emily's family are completely homeless. When Maria said, "I'm sorry for everything. Let's get along. Can you lend me some money, please?" I replied, "I think it's best if you stay away since I'm a jinx. We're strangers now that we've severed ties." Maria was quiet after mumbling weakly. In my mind, I was thinking, who's the real bad luck charm here? Then when I said I wouldn't lend them a single cent, Emily, who had been listening next to Maria, shouted, "You devil. Bring us the money right now. I am a devil and bad luck, so I'm going to hang up now." I replied and ended the call. In reality, I involved a lawyer for the past 5 months to push for the auction of the house. I thought it was an unusual case, but apparently, it's not that uncommon. The house was sold without any major issues, giving our family a moment of peace. We plan to find a new home with the money Kevin left us. Since it's just my mother and me, we don't need a big house. We'd rather prioritize security as 2 women living together. So I chose a condominium with minimal noise disturbance. I remember something my husband always said when we built our home. People can get energy from the sun, so let's create a place where the mother-in-law can enjoy her hobby of reading in the garden without feeling self-conscious. With those words, he had made a spacious courtyard for her. It's heartening to hear that you found a condominium with a spacious balcony where your mother-in-law can enjoy her coffee and reading. While the new place may be smaller than your previous home, it's comforting to know that you're able to keep some of the furniture your husband likely chose. The sale of the house, which was on the expansive land gifted by Kevin's grandfather, fetched more than expected, providing a solid financial foundation for your family's future. The decision to invest in a luxurious condominium with top-notch security features is a testament to your late husband's cautious nature, and it undoubtedly brings you a sense of peace in the wake of the tumultuous events involving your in-laws. Since Kevin's passing, life has taken a dramatic turn, and navigating the fallout from his family's actions has been emotionally draining. Following the auction of the house, Maria and Emily found themselves without a place to live and ended up in public housing. Despite their efforts to secure financial assistance, they've resorted to disruptive behaviors, such as hosting barbecues on their small balcony, which have left the community incredulous. These actions, coupled with frequent loud arguments, highlight their disregard for others' comfort and the challenges they face in adjusting to their new circumstances. With Emily's husband having left, she and Maria are now facing these challenges on their own. It's a difficult situation, but it's clear that you've made the right choice in prioritizing your own peace and security as you move forward with your mother in your new home. Your reflections are deeply poignant and resonate with a sense of closure and determination to move forward. The stark contrast between the peaceful sanctuary you've created with your mother and the turmoil your former family is experiencing serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of one's actions. It's evident that you found solace in creating a tranquil haven where you and your mother can feel safe and secure, free from drama and disruptions. Despite the challenges you faced, you remain committed to honoring Kevin's memory by living a life filled with positivity and peace. Your decision to focus on living authentically and compassionately reflects a deep understanding of what truly matters in life. As you navigate this new chapter, guided by Kevin's spirit of kindness and resilience, you're determined to live in a way that would make him proud. Your journey of resilience, growth, and honoring Kevin's legacy serves as an inspiration to cherish the moments of silence, savor the memories, and embrace the beauty of living well. As you continue on this path, may you find comfort and strength in the love and laughter you shared with Kevin, and may your chosen sanctuary continue to be a source of peace and joy in your life. Hi, it's Tara here, and I've got a story to tell you. It happened a few months ago, but it's still fresh in my mind. I want to share it to help you understand toxic behavior and when to stand up against it. I'm 32 years old and live with my husband Stephen, who's also 32, and our kitten. Stephen and I have been together since high school. We got married young and went to different colleges, but our relationship stayed strong. Next month, we'll celebrate 15 years together, but there's a hitch. My mother-in-law, Lily, won't be joining us. Lily never really warmed up to me. She has 2 sons, and she's always doted on them since they were born. In her eyes, no one is good enough for her boys. When Steve and his older brother C were kids, they enjoyed all the attention from their mom. They loved her a lot and didn't notice how controlling she could be. As they got older, Lily's controlling ways became a problem for her teenage sons. They weren't allowed to date or hang out with girls outside of school. Lily didn't let them have sleepovers with friends and threatened to punish them if they argued. Steve and Sean went to the same high school as me, so I knew them a bit. While Steve kinda agreed with Lily's rules, Sean rebelled. He often got in trouble for sneaking out and hanging out with girls. His mom even came to school once to threaten his girlfriend at the time. What Lily didn't realize was that Sean had grown a backbone and didn't listen to her anymore. He stood up for Jessie, his now wife, when Lily tried to scare her away and insult her. When they turned 18, they started avoiding Lily more and more. Lily wasn't happy about it at all. Stephen also thought Sean went too far. We were still new in our relationship, so I didn't say much to avoid arguments. But then Lily started targeting me. She did everything she could to break us up, even planning an expensive trip to Hawaii during prom week to keep us apart. Stephen did ask her to cancel the trip, but that was the only time he stood up to her. Whenever Lily criticized me and said hurtful things, Stephen didn't defend me. He even started believing her when she said I might cheat on him when we went to different colleges. We ended up taking a short break, and Lily took Stephen out to celebrate our breakup. She never thought Stephen would come back to me. She was furious that we got back together. She kept harassing and humiliating me every chance she got. I tried talking to Stephen about it, but it didn't go well. Hey Tara, you know my mom is really disrespectful to me. I've always tried to be nice to her, but all she does is criticize me and call me names. I'm getting fed up with it. Can you talk to her about it? Tara, my mom's still upset about what happened with Scene. She's worried about losing me too. She just wants what's best for me and my future. Try not to take her words too personally. So you're okay with how Lily treats me? Seriously, Steve, remember when she tried to break us up? She only did that because she was worried you might cheat. If you had cheated on me, I would have been really hurt. She was just trying to protect me from getting hurt. Are you serious? She used your fears against you to break us up. How can you defend that? No matter what I said, Steve never saw things from my point of view. He always thought I was overreacting and believed Lily was just trying to protect him. He refused to believe me when I said Lily calls me to criticize me. He insisted Lily would never do such a thing and accused me of lying. Even Scene tried to talk sense into him. After hearing everything, Steve argued with Scene, saying he betrayed their mom. Things got weird between Scene and Steve. Scene ended up marrying Jessica, the same girl Lily tried to scare off. He invited Steve and me but didn't tell Lily about the wedding. Lily was furious and tried to get Steve to convince Scene to invite her. Steve, always siding with his mom, argued with Scene because of Lily. He almost didn't go to the wedding to support her. I said to him, "Are you really going to skip the wedding to support Lily? Remember what she did to Scene and Jessie in high school? She still complains about Jessie and blames her for taking Scene away. Why should they invite her to their wedding? Look, you don't know everything. It's all a big misunderstanding. Mom was just trying to do what she thought was best for Scene. She can get carried away sometimes, but she's willing to patch things up. We're family and we shouldn't hold grudges. It's their wedding, and they can choose who to invite. It's not our place to make demands. We should respect their decision. I know I can't change much, but that's why I'm not going to the wedding. I want them to realize they're making a mistake. I'll RSVP tomorrow. They'll still have time to reconsider." Stephen, if you skip the wedding, they might cut you out too. They've already done that to Lily. Are you sure you want to risk losing your brother over this? After a lot of arguing, he finally agreed to go to the wedding. I was relieved, hoping things might improve. He saw how happy Scene and Jessie are without Lily's interference. They even moved far away and had the wedding there to keep Lily away. When Stephen showed Lily the pictures, she lost it. She cried on his shoulder and made him stay with her for a month. He even canceled our trip to Colorado to make it up to her. I was really upset by how he handled everything. However, I knew our love ran deep, and breaking up wasn't an option anymore. I just hoped Stephen would see the truth about Lily's awful behavior. Fast forward to 2 years ago, Stephen finally proposed, and I said yes. Lily was upset but pretended to be happy for him. Later, I found out she refused to give him her engagement ring because she thought I was a gold digger and our marriage wouldn't last. I love the ring Stephen picked for me. We're both engineers, so we make good money. He could afford to buy the ring himself. Plus, I'd rather wear something he chose than have Lily's jewelry. Wedding planning was a mess. Lily kept getting involved in everything, from cake tasting to picking a venue. She had to have a say in everything. She didn't like my ideas and tried to change the theme. Lily said my vintage theme was boring and tacky. I ignored her, but Stephen didn't. We discussed every decision carefully. I finally spoke up. "This is getting ridiculous. It's our wedding, not hers. Your mom needs to give us space to decide for ourselves. I don't want her input on everything. She hates everything I choose. You need to tell her to back off." "Tara, Mom just wants what's best for us. She's been to more weddings than us. So her input could be helpful in the future. You know she missed Scene's wedding. She just wants to enjoy mine." I'm tired of hearing that excuse. She deserved to be uninvited from Scene's wedding. That was all her fault because Jessie didn't let her interfere. I won't let her control everything. She's welcome to be involved, but she can't criticize my choices. This is our wedding, Stephen. She already had hers. After a lot of persuading, he finally told Lily to back off. She threw a fit but calmed down a bit. Unfortunately, Stephen still went along with a lot of her choices. I was sad at first, but I knew it was also Stephen's day, so I went along to avoid more trouble. I wasn't confident enough to stand up for myself, and Stephen was too influenced by his mom to think clearly. The wedding turned into another disaster when Lily showed up in a white dress that looked like a bridal gown. Thankfully, Stephen realized the problem and insisted she change before the ceremony. She pretended she didn't have another dress. But my maid of honor came to the rescue with a dress I had bought for her. Lily had no choice but to wear it. During the reception, she made tearful speeches about feeling like she was losing her sons to awful women like me and Jessie. She tried to make herself out to be the victim and criticize our relationships. It made everyone uncomfortable, even her own family. My maid of honor took the microphone away and tried to lighten the mood. On our honeymoon, Lily called us constantly, crying about feeling lonely. She called Stephen repeatedly, and when she couldn't reach him, she called me. "Where's my boy? What have you done to him? It's only been a month since the wedding, and you're already taking him away. No matter what you do, he'll always choose me over you. He'll never love you more than his mama." "Lily, we're on our honeymoon. You can't keep calling us like this." Stephen's phone died, so he went back to our room to charge it. "Why would I keep him away from you? I know how you are, Tara. All you want is his money. You can't stand the fact that he supports me. He sends me money and gifts every month. You want to isolate him so you can take all his money. But I won't let that happen. He's been taking care of me since his father died 10 years ago." "Lily, I don't care if he supports you. You're his mom, so of course, he helps you out. I earn enough for both of us, so I don't want his money anyway. You need to stop accusing me." "Shut up. You may fool him, but I know what kind of woman you are. Now give the phone to my son right now. I need to talk to him." Dealing with her on our honeymoon was just one of many tough conversations. When we got home, she cried for days because we didn't take her along. It was surprising when she scolded Stephen for going without her. But as usual, he focused on comforting her and ignored my concerns. I was slowly learning to handle her tantrums and speak up for myself. Things were okay until I found out I was pregnant. We were thrilled, and Stephen wanted to tell Lily right away. I was nervous, but I figured she'd be happy about her first grandchild. I couldn't have been more wrong. As soon as she found out, she started crying and yelling. She accused me of trapping Stephen with a baby to take him away from her. She even claimed I cheated on him and was passing off the baby as his. My husband tried to calm her down, but she wouldn't listen. I was tired of her drama by then. Her tantrums lasted for 2 weeks before she decided to visit us. She came early in the morning and let herself in with a spare key. Lily acted overly happy about the baby and even brought me gifts. Stephen thought she had finally accepted the baby, but I wasn't so sure. That evening, Lily offered to make us tea because it was chilly outside. Stephen was grateful for her kindness and gave me a look like he was saying, "See, I told you she's okay now." I decided to investigate. I excused myself and went to the kitchen to check on Lily. I saw her making tea and adding something from a carton. Both my husband and I are allergic to lactose, so we only use a specific brand of oat milk. The carton Lily used wasn't ours. She used the oat milk for 1 cup and the other carton for the other. I thought maybe she was just using a different kind of vegan milk for variety. But I was still uneasy when she handed me the suspicious mug. I panicked and switched cups with my husband when they weren't looking. We drank our tea, but Lily just smirked at me the whole time. Luckily, nothing happened that night. But in the early hours of the morning, I heard my husband throwing up in the bathroom. He kept going back and forth, and it woke me up. Eventually, he came out and lay down on the couch, looking like he was in a lot of pain. Lily came out too and looked worried when she saw him suffering. She started crying. That's when I realized she had used cow milk in our tea. I was furious, but first, I had to get Stephen to the hospital. I called 911, and they sent an ambulance. Stephen was in a lot of pain and almost passed out. We got to the hospital, and the doctor said he needed to stay overnight. When the doctor came for a consultation, I made Lily confess to everything in front of Stephen. She was worried about her son, so it wasn't hard to get her to admit it. The doctor shook his head and said Stephen needed to stay in the hospital for a day. Stephen looked troubled, and suddenly he started to see through Lily's actions. He was baffled by what she had done. He asked her, "Mom, you know I'm allergic to milk. Why did you use it? We don't even keep cow milk in our fridge. Why did you bring it here? And Tara doesn't drink cow milk either, you know that." "Stephen, believe me, I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't know how this happened. I know you can't have milk. I'm your mother." "Then why did you put milk in my tea, Mom? What happened?" Lily just kept crying in the corner. That's when I decided to tell him the truth. I know why Lily brought cow milk into our home. You see, it wasn't meant for you. It was meant for me. What? Tara, you can't have cow milk either. Lily knows that. Why would she bring cow milk for you? I don't understand. Lily wanted to hurt me and our baby. I don't know why, but she wanted me to suffer. She gave me the cup you drank from. I switched our cups because I didn't want to risk our child's health. Turns out, I was right. There's no way she would do that. You're lying, Tara. Mom, say something. You told me you were happy for us. Tell me you didn't do this. Lily started wailing and screaming. It got so loud that a nurse had to take her out. None of us wanted her there anymore. Stephen was shocked and traumatized by what she did. He apologized to me and promised to keep Lily away from our lives. I comforted him as best I could and took him home the next day. I changed the locks on our house while he was in the hospital. He called Lily and told her we were cutting off contact for good. More crying and wailing followed. Mom, after what you've done, I don't want you around. I've always defended you, but I see now how much you've hurt my family. I won't allow it anymore. You've crossed the line. Stephen, please. I didn't mean for this to happen. I felt lonely because you were spending all your time with her. I thought the baby would make things worse. I just wanted to hurt her a little and make her suffer. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't change what you did. It's unforgivable. I can't even imagine what would have happened if Tara drank the tea you gave her. I'm disgusted with you, and I don't want to hear from you again. Leave us alone. With that, we started cutting off contact with her. She showed up at the house and tried to get in with her keys. When she saw we changed the lock, she started banging on the door. We called the cops and let them handle it. We blocked her on all our phones and social media. Sean and Jesse informed our extended family about the situation. Everyone was disgusted and appalled by her behavior. After discussing Lily's actions with me, Stephen, Sean, and Jesse, we decided to get a restraining order against her. We had evidence from our security cameras and her confession to the doctor. The order was granted quickly. So far, she stayed away but has tried to gather information from our extended family. No one has entertained her demands, and we've cut off financial support, so she had to get a job at Walmart. We're rebuilding our relationship with Sean and Jesse. Stephen and Sean had a heart-to-heart conversation and resolved their issues. Jesse and I were always close, so this brought us even closer. Thankfully, my husband has finally seen the truth and protected me from Lily. We're happy and eagerly awaiting the birth of our child. To be safe, I made it clear to Stephen that Lily won't have a relationship with our child. To my surprise, he agreed immediately. Our household is peaceful now that Lily's gone for good. We might move to Scene City after our child is born. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know we'll face it together. I'm Harley. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a bold and self-reliant woman. Let me tell you about the crazy journey of my relationship with my husband Dominic. Get ready, because it's going to be a wild ride. Dominic and I had our ups and downs, like most couples. Even though I loved him a lot, there was one big problem. His mom, Charlotte. She was always critical of me. No matter what I did, she never seemed happy. Whenever we have family gatherings, Charlotte would make mean comments about my cooking. She acted like she was a fancy chef and I couldn't cook at all. She complained about the taste, how things looked, and say I wasn't as good as her. It felt like she was trying to prove that I wasn't good enough for her son. But it wasn't just about my cooking. Charlotte had a talent for making me feel small in other ways too. Once, at a dinner party, I proudly told everyone about a big promotion I got at work, hoping for a pat on the back. Instead, she just brushed it off like it was no big deal, saying it wasn't as good as what her friends' kids had achieved. It made me feel invisible, like she didn't care about my success. And our wedding? It should have been a happy day, but Charlotte made it her mission to criticize everything, from where we had it to what colors we used. Nothing was good enough for her. She'd whisper her disapproval to anyone who'd listen, ruining what should have been the best day of my life. You'd think my husband, Dominic, would stand up for me, right? Well, not quite. Bless him, he had this weird blind spot when it came to his mom. He couldn't see how she treated me, made me feel small, and acted like I didn't matter. It hurt a lot. And his dad, Caleb, was the only one who seemed to get it and call her out. But I wish Dominic would be the one to stand up for me. After all, I was his wife, his partner, and I deserved his support no matter what. But every time, I felt let down. Dominic stayed quiet, letting his mom's words hurt me over and over again. It was like being cut by tiny knives, again and again. I wanted his love, but I also wanted him to stick up for me. It wasn't just about defending me from Charlotte's mean comments, it was about fighting for our relationship and showing me I was important. I hoped he'd see through his mom's tricks and put us first. But it seemed like he was stuck in the family drama, unable to break free. As time went on, I started to feel more and more frustrated. I felt like he didn't care about me or what I needed. It was like we were stuck in a bad cycle that we couldn't get out of. The beginning of the end came when Dominic said he had to go on yet another business trip, this time to Tampa for a week. Another trip? Seriously, Dominic? It's a really important meeting that couldn't wait, babe, he said. But you just got back from another one. Can't someone else do it? And why Tampa all of a sudden? I asked, surprised. He had only just come back from a different business trip, so this sudden one made me wonder. I tried to tell him how I felt, hoping he'd understand, but his answers didn't help much. But I let it go. I'll bake, even though I'm not sure about this. You know, sometimes things just come up unexpectedly in business, I said reluctantly. Yeah, it's just business, okay. Even though I had my doubts, I didn't push it too much, and off he went on this business trip. The first 3 days of Dominic's trip went by, and my suspicions got even stronger. I decided to FaceTime him, like I usually did when he was away, but he kept choosing audio calls instead. Hey, can we do a video chat tonight? Sorry, the hotel Wi-Fi isn't great, so audio calls are better for now. But everything's fine, don't worry. Wi-Fi problems, it seemed too convenient, didn't it? Babe, don't worry about it, Dominic reassured me. But I couldn't help but worry. Sometimes I'd hear a woman's voice in the background, and it made my doubts grow stronger, making me even more uneasy. I felt like Dominic was hiding something, like there was more to this trip than he was letting on. The trust between us was starting to crack, leaving me with a sense of uncertainty that hung over our relationship. Despite my doubts, I stayed quiet and accepted his excuses for those 3 days. It was hard to believe. 3 whole days had gone by, and I still hadn't seen Dominic. Not only did he avoid video calls, but our audio calls kept getting shorter and shorter. I had to find out what was really going on. On the 4th day, I tried to FaceTime Dominic again, hoping to get some answers. But when the call connected, instead of seeing Dominic, it was Charlotte who answered. She was sitting in a beach chair with sunglasses on and a tan. I was shocked. Charlotte, what are you doing there? Where's Dominic? She smirked, looking pleased with herself. Oh, Harley dear, you didn't think he was on a business trip, did you? Honestly, I can't say he needed to go to Tampa to keep this from you, but I suppose that just shows how pushy you can be. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dominic had lied to me, and his mother was there, enjoying herself while I was left in the dark. Anger started to bubble up inside me as I realized they had been deceiving me. So you're telling me you both planned this secret vacation without me? Well, yes, she admitted. Why? I demanded. Because I wanted to visit my hometown, and I wanted to do it with my son. Is that so wrong? Charlotte replied. Of course not. But why keep it a secret? Why exclude me? I pressed. Because this trip is just for me and my son, she explained. But I'm his wife. I should have been included. This could have been a chance for us to work out whatever issues you have with me, and I could really use a vacation too, I argued. Well, tough luck. You didn't get one. Sorry, not sorry, Charlotte retorted. I'm going to set aside your childish behavior for a moment to say this. Even if you wanted this special trip without me, that would have been okay. I'm an adult, you can tell me if I'm not invited to something. I can handle it. But here's the thing. We kept it a secret from you because we simply didn't want you to know. It's as simple as that. We didn't care if you wanted to come or if you would have been okay with us going alone. We just didn't want you to know. But your constant calls were annoying, so I decided to just tell you, Charlotte explained. Are you serious, Charlotte? What's gotten into you? Has all that sun fried your brain? I shot back. How dare you insult me like that? You're taking this too far. You're acting like such a drama queen, she retorted. I'm not being dramatic. I have every right to be upset, especially after years of putting up with your nonsense, I responded. Charlotte shrugged, pretending to be innocent. Oh, Harley dear, sometimes it's better not to know everything your husband does. It was just a little secret getaway, just for us, something special. You wouldn't understand the bond we have. A rush of emotions flooded through me, betrayal, anger, and sadness. It was obvious they had planned this together, leaving me out and feeling completely deceived. As I realized the extent of their deceit, I couldn't help but wonder what else they had lied about. How long had these secret trips been happening? Why were they so insistent on keeping me in the dark, and what else were they hiding from me? The trust I had in Dominic was falling apart, and I snapped out of my thoughts when I heard his voice getting closer. "Mom, why did you answer the phone? What's going on?" Dominic's voice sounded tense. "It's time Holly knew the truth." "It's been 4 days," his mother replied firmly. Dominic snatched the phone from his mother, his face going pale as he realized the mess he was in. He stared at the screen, knowing he was caught in a lie. "Why did you lie about the business trip, Dominic? And the Wi-Fi was fine the past few days, wasn't it?" I demanded. "I didn't want you to be mad at me," he admitted. "Well, of course I'm mad. I thought you were avoiding me. Is it strange that you want to spend time with your mom?" "Yeah, a bit. But Dominic, you haven't been standing up for me, and I've been feeling distant from you already. If you wanted mom-son time, you could have just said so. Even if I was upset about not being invited, it would have been better than feeling like this," I argued. Anger surged through me as Dominic tried to explain himself. It was clear he hadn't thought about how his actions would affect me. "Dominic, I wouldn't have been upset if you had just been honest with me. It's not about the trip itself. It's about you keeping it a secret. That's what bothers me. I mean, I thought you were cheating on me, for crying out loud." "What? No way," Dominic exclaimed. "Yeah, well, when I heard women's voices in the background of your calls, I started to wonder," I said bitterly. "I have a special bond with my mom. Sometimes we just need to get away," Dominic tried to explain. "In Tampa of all places, you both hate Tampa. And what about Gertrude? Weren't we supposed to visit her?" I questioned. "So this secret was just between you two? What about your dad? Did he know?" I pressed. "I can't talk right now. I hope this trip was worth it, because when you come back, I'm not sure you'll still have a wife," I said firmly. "Holly, please wait," Dominic pleaded. But I couldn't wait. I ended the call and ignored all of Dominic's attempts to reach me. I paced back and forth in my room, trying to make sense of it all. Why would he hide something so simple from me? One thing about me, when you lie about small things, I start to wonder what big things you're hiding. It was strange to think of Dominic spending time with his mom on this secret trip. Honestly, I would have preferred if he was cheating on me. I was frustrated with my distant and secretive husband and his difficult mother. I knew what I had to do. I needed to talk to someone who would understand. I picked up my phone and called my father-in-law, hoping he could offer some clarity and support. "Hey, it's Holly. I need to talk to you about something important." I poured my heart out, sharing every detail of the deception that had tainted my marriage. Anger, sadness, and betrayal swirled inside me as I recounted Dominic's lies. From his fake business trip to his desperate attempts to keep me in the dark. His betrayal cut deep. But what hurt even more was Charlotte's involvement. I described how she seemed to enjoy keeping me ignorant, relishing the power she had over me. The weight of their deceit felt suffocating, and as I spoke, I could sense Caleb's shock and hurt in his responses. Caleb's voice turned serious, matching the gravity of my words. "What? I had no idea about any of this. I'm so sorry you had to find out like this. As soon as I found out, I called you. Charlotte told me she was going to Tampa to visit her mother and repair their relationship. I believed her." Well, Dominic just confessed that they weren't planning to visit Gertrude at all. "And Gertrude has no clue about any visit," I revealed. Caleb's shock and hurt were evident over the phone. It was becoming apparent that Charlotte had been weaving a web of lies, manipulating everyone involved. I can't believe Charlotte would do something like this. It's one thing to have disagreements, but to deceive her own family. It's unforgivable, Caleb said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "They both need to learn a lesson," I agreed. "That's a brilliant idea." I was seething with anger, ready to do anything to teach Dominic and Charlotte a lesson. After our call ended with words of encouragement and excitement for what was to come, I waited eagerly to hear back from Caleb about his mother-in-law's reaction. A couple of hours passed and Caleb delivered the good news. As Caleb described his conversation with Gertrude, the seriousness of the situation became even clearer. His voice shook with a mixture of anger and sadness. "I told her everything, Harley. She was furious, devastated even. She couldn't believe her own daughter would deceive everyone like this," Caleb explained. She deserves to know the truth, Caleb. Charlotte has been treating us horribly for too long, I replied. Gertrude has decided to take action, Harley. She's planning to teach Charlotte a lesson she won't forget. She's fed up with Charlotte's behavior and wants to show her what real rudeness looks like. I hope you don't mind me asking, but what exactly is the issue between Charlotte and Gertrude? Well, Harley, I'm sure you'll find it ironic, but Charlotte always claimed her mother was very rude and cruel to her. They've had a rocky relationship since Charlotte ran away at 16, being in and out of touch for years. It's very toxic, but after talking to Gertrude for the past hour, I'm starting to think Charlotte was the problem all along. It's crazy. I've been married to Shaw for all these years, and you and Dom have only been married for 3, yet you've managed to uncover more family secrets in this short time. I should have been more curious. I should have stood up more. How could you have known, Caleb? Don't be hard on yourself, please. You were just being a good husband, trusting what your wife told you, and you stood up more than your son. That means something. Thanks, Harley, for everything. I'm glad I could help, even though it's unfortunate it came to this, I remarked. Yeah, I guess so, but I'm looking forward to Gertrude showing them how tough she can be, Caleb responded. The next day arrived, and the fallout from our revelations began. Dominic, unable to grasp the seriousness of the situation, called me in frustration, his words filled with irritation. Holly, what did you do? What do you mean? Don't play dumb with me. Gertrude is here, and nobody else knows we're in town except you. She said she came because she heard we were here. I'm glad she knows the truth. Everyone deserves to know, after all your sneaking around. How could you do this, Harley? Dominic's voice was filled with frustration. In the background, I heard some commotion, likely from 2 female voices. One sounded much older, which I assumed was Gertrude unleashing her anger. Dominic, maybe it's time Charlotte faces the consequences of her actions. She needs to understand what it feels like to be deceived, I replied firmly. Suddenly, I heard Charlotte's voice. You ungrateful little rat. How dare you expose us like this? As I listened, I couldn't help but chuckle softly, though there was bitterness in my laughter. Before I could respond, I heard another voice, stern and authoritative. Don't you dare speak to that young lady like that. I've had enough of your insolence. You've been telling everyone how rude and nasty I was to you, huh? When all I did was care for you and help you out of trouble. You were such a problem child, lying about everything and being nasty to everyone. And I see that lifestyle has followed you into adulthood. We haven't seen or talked to each other since you left, and this is how you want to act. Do you think I'm rude and nasty? Just wait, I'll show you rude and nasty. I heard things breaking like a glass or a vase, and it made me a bit fearful as the shouting continued. I couldn't imagine how scared Dominic must have been, but I realized that this was the consequence of his actions. He was an adult, responsible for his choices. I was done making excuses for them. They were getting what they deserved, and I was glad to hear it unfold. For the next few days, Dominic kept asking for my forgiveness because his grandmother was driving him crazy. Each time he called, I reminded him that this was his fault. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Gertrude continued arguing back and forth. I was surprised they didn't get kicked out of the hotel they were staying in. As their 7-day trip came to an end, Dominic revealed something even more shocking. Holly, please, you need to talk to Gertrude. I tried talking to Dad, but he's still upset with my mom and me, Dominic pleaded. Slow down, what's going on? You two were supposed to be coming back, right? I asked, trying to keep up. I thought you learned your lesson, I added. Well, Gertrude doesn't think so. She's planning to board the plane with us, Dominic explained. What? She wants to follow us home and make sure my mom starts acting like a respectable adult and not some crazed teenager, he continued. Wow, that's unexpected. Maybe next time you'll stand up for what's right and not go along with your mother's schemes. See you when you get here, I replied. Harley, I regret everything. Haven't you punished us enough? Please talk to Gertrude and tell her she doesn't have to come with us. Dominic pleaded desperately. I don't think so, sweetie. Who am I to argue with that woman? She's terrifying. I responded to Dominic's plea. How do you think we feel? He asked. Honestly, Dom, I don't care how you feel. You've been lying to me for God knows how long, and you never stood up for me when your mom treated me poorly. You're getting your karma. Don't be mad at me now. Have a safe flight. Well, as safe a flight as you came with these two ladies being together, I retorted firmly. As I hung up the phone, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. Finally, the tables had turned and I had stood up against the toxicity that had plagued our lives for too long. Gertrude, the unexpected ally, had unleashed her own brand of justice, and I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of excitement. Now I await their return, expecting stories from Gertrude, as I'm sure she continued to make their lives difficult on that flight. Revenge never tasted so sweet. Hello, friends. My name is Dina, and today I'm going to tell you my story. I had the same mother-in-law problem that many people here seem to have. I was surprised to see so many entitled mother-in-laws out there. It's pretty scary. My mother-in-law, Vivian, is also entitled and delusional. I realized this as soon as I married my husband, Carter. Vivian wasn't financially dependent on us, but she liked to act like she owned everything around her. If she touched something, she called it hers. This was because she was very greedy and liked to live a luxurious life, but she never had the money for it. Most of the time, Vivian and I avoided conflicts because I kept quiet. But once, a big incident happened that changed how I dealt with her. You see, I had recently inherited a vintage car from my grandfather after he passed away. That car was very important to me and I was happy to have it. But to my mother-in-law, it was just something that needed to be sold so she could get some of the money. Carter and I had avoided telling Vivian about the car because we knew she would say something ridiculous like sell the car and give me the money. And sure enough, Vivian didn't disappoint. She was staying with us for a couple of days because her house was under emergency renovation. Her fault, but that's another story. So Vivian moved into our home and immediately started calling it hers. It was annoying, but I ignored her like I always did. The real problem started when she checked out our garage and found my vintage car. She quickly came back into the house and asked, "Why is there a vintage car in your garage?" I replied, "Oh, that's my car. I recently got it from my grandfather, who just passed away. It was my inheritance. That's an expensive car. I looked it up online, and it says it's worth around $100,000. That's a lot of money. You shouldn't keep it." "I am keeping it. It belonged to my late grandfather, and it means a lot to me. I won't sell it." "You're crazy. Listen, Dina, think about what I'm saying. You could sell the car and use the money for so many things. Keeping it to yourself is selfish. We, as your family, deserve to benefit from your inheritance too." Vivian's words were really strange. First of all, what I did with my own stuff wasn't her business. And secondly, I didn't have to share my things with her. What was she thinking? I didn't know how to respond, so I just walked away and hoped she wouldn't bring it up again. I was wrong. Vivian was really persistent and kept bringing it up. That night, while we were quietly having dinner, Vivian brought up selling my car again. She suddenly said, "So, have you thought about what I said? Have you decided to sell your car?" "For the last time, Vivian, I'm not selling my car. It's just not going to happen." "This is unacceptable, Dina. You can't have a car that expensive. You're not rich. Your Honda is good enough. You need to think about your family and sell the car so we can all enjoy the money. You can't tell me what to do with my car, Vivian. That's my decision. I don't mind keeping the car in my garage. It's sentimental and I've always wanted it. I'm not selling it to anyone. Carter, you need to tell your wife to sell the car. She can't just keep an expensive car when we could have the money." Vivian expected Carter to agree with her. I understand why. Carter usually had a hard time saying no to her or setting boundaries. But he had been improving. So imagine Vivian's surprise when Carter said, "Mom, it's her car, so she decides what to do with it." You heard her. It means a lot to her. If she doesn't want to sell it, we can't force her. "But Carter, it's a lot of money." Even if it is, that money belongs to her. We can't decide what she does with it. "Leave her alone, Mom. You're being too pushy. You shouldn't comment on things that are privately owned." Vivian looked disappointed by her son's words. She thought he would side with her, but he didn't. She didn't give up though. She kept making small comments about the car and how nice it would be to have $100,000. It was annoying, but I ignored it. I should have paid more attention because she managed to steal and sell my car without me noticing. One morning, when I was getting ready to leave for work, I noticed that my vintage car was gone. I was in the garage about to drive my Honda, but my car wasn't there. I got really worried and thought someone might have taken it. The garage was open, but it didn't look like it had been broken into. Carter's car wasn't there either because he had already left for work. So I knew he hadn't taken it. I called my job and took the day off to figure out what happened. That car meant a lot to me, and I couldn't relax until I found it. I called Carter in a panic to make sure he didn't know anything about the missing car. I said, "Carter, did you take my car by any chance? It's not in a garage." "What?" "No, I took my Mustang. I saw your car in the garage before I left." "I don't know, Carter. It's not there anymore. I realized it was missing when I went to take my Honda to work. I'm really worried." "Carter, I'm freaking out. We need to figure out where the car is. Can you check our security cameras to see who took it? And if you find anything, we should call the police." "I wish I could help more, but I have an important meeting soon. Still, you can call me if you need me." Carter helped calm me down and gave me instructions on what to do next. He was right. I needed to check the security cameras first. I opened the app on my phone and watched the videos from that morning. What I saw was really disturbing. It was my own mother-in-law who had taken the car. Even though I had told her countless times not to touch it, she ignored me. I was furious. I called her and recorded the conversation. I said, "Vivian, where are you? Why did you take my car?" "Oh, calm down. I just took it for a short drive." "No, you need to come back right now. I want my car back. I never gave you permission to use it. It was in your garage, Dina. Since you won't sell it, I figured I might as well use it. Stop calling me. I'll come back when I come back." I was furious with Vivian. I was so angry, I almost called the cops on her. But I decided to give her a chance. She was my mother-in-law after all. If she returned my car undamaged, I would make sure she faced consequences and make sure this never happened again. I didn't want to involve the cops if I didn't have to. But as time passed and Vivian didn't return, I started to reconsider. Little did I know, things were about to get much worse. An hour later, I heard Vivian come in. I was surprised she hadn't brought my car back. I knew something was wrong. What was even more concerning was that she had several shopping bags with her, all from luxury brands she couldn't afford. I rushed up to her and demanded to know what was going on. I stopped her and said angrily, "What's going on, Vivian? Where's my car?" "It's in your driveway." "I'm talking about my vintage car, Vivian. Where is it?" "What did you do?" "Oh, you mean your vintage car? Well, I guess you can say goodbye to your $100,000 car." "Oops, too late. It's already gone." "What do you mean, too late? You need to explain, Vivian. I'm losing my patience." "I did what you should have done a long time ago. I sold your car," Vivian said casually. She didn't seem sorry at all. In fact, she looked pleased with herself. My anxiety turned into pure rage. I couldn't believe what Vivian was saying. She just admitted to selling my vintage car. I tried not to yell, but I was on the verge of exploding. "You sold my car. Are you serious?" "Yes, I'm serious, Dina. I sold your car today. It brought in good money. That's how I paid for all this stuff." "Let me make sure I understand. You took my car without permission, sold it, and used the money." "Yes, that's exactly what I did." "Why are you so surprised? I told you to sell the car. Having such an expensive car in the garage is a waste." "Are you crazy, Vivian? Who gave you the right to steal my property and sell it for yourself?" "Whoa, calm down, Dina. I plan to use the money for family stuff too. I just booked plane tickets to Alaska. We'll have a nice time at a ski resort I've always wanted to visit. So I'm not the only one benefiting. If you behave, I might give you some of the money so you can buy something for yourself too." Vivian was really getting on my nerves. I was so close to losing my temper. A part of me couldn't believe what she was saying. It was hard to understand how someone could be so entitled to sell something that wasn't theirs. But with my mother-in-law, anything was possible. Despite it all, I decided to give her one more chance. I said firmly, "Listen, Vivian, you need to take your car, go to where you sold mine, and bring it back to me right now. I'm only saying this once. Take it as your last chance to fix this mess." "Are you threatening me, Dana?" "Well, that's not going to work. The car's sold, and I've already spent some of the money. Plus, I didn't sell it just so you could demand it back. So you're not going to bring back my car. I gave you a chance to fix your mistake, and you're not taking it. Is that right?" "God, you're slow, Dina. There's no way I'm bringing your car back. Like I said, it's long gone now. You can drive your Honda for all I care." "All right then, don't say I didn't give you a chance." Vivian didn't even bother to listen to the last part. She just took her shopping bags and went to her room. I was reeling from the audacity of this woman, but I knew yelling wouldn't help. I needed to act fast if I wanted my car back. So I did what anyone would do. I called the cops and explained what happened. They were at my house in 15 minutes. By then, I had gathered the papers proving the car was mine. I welcomed the cops in, showed them all the evidence, including the security footage of Vivian driving off with my car and not returning it. They decided to talk to Vivian. She came downstairs looking annoyed but froze when she saw the cops. Then she sweetly said, "Good afternoon, officers. What brings you to my home? Is my daughter-in-law in trouble?" "Ma'am, your daughter-in-law is pressing charges against you for stealing and selling her car illegally." "Oh, officers, there must be some mistake. As you can see, her car is right here in the garage. She's just being spiteful by calling you here." "Ma'am, we're not talking about the Honda. We're referring to the vintage car you sold today." "There's no vintage car in my house, officers. This must be a misunderstanding. We're not wealthy enough to have a vintage car." "Ma'am, we have paperwork and video evidence of everything. Plus, there's insurance involved. There's no point in lying to us." When the officers saw through Vivian's lies, she tried a different approach. It was almost amusing to watch her come up with these crazy stories to cover her tracks. She looked a bit embarrassed as she said, "Oh, that one, officers. I might have been confused. Yes, she used to own a car like that, but she asked me to sell it. So that's what I did today." "Why are you lying to the officers, Vivian? I never gave you permission to drive, let alone sell, the car." "Dina, what's wrong with you? You can't just change your story like that. Are you trying to frame me? That's so unfair. Officers, you have to understand, Dina's trying to set me up. I swear she gave me permission to sell it." I pulled out my phone and played the recording of me telling Vivian to come home and leave my car alone. It clearly showed I didn't give her permission to use or sell the car and that I wanted it back. The officers listened and looked very annoyed. They gave Vivian a stern look and said, "Are you going to keep lying, or is that it?" Vivian stuttered. "Well, I can explain. Just hear me out." "You don't need to explain here, ma'am. You can do that at the police station. You're under arrest for stealing your daughter-in-law's car." Now Vivian looked genuinely scared. She was visibly nervous, with tears welling up in her eyes. Despite being cuffed, she continued to try and come up with more lies. But the officers didn't entertain her. Instead, they arrested her. She should have stopped, but her anxiety got the better of her. She turned to me. Her demeanor completely changed within minutes. She went from being confident to a frightened person begging for help. She pleaded, "Dina, you can't let this happen. You can't have your own mother-in-law arrested. Think about what people will say." "I don't care what people will say, Vivian. You committed a crime and need to face the consequences. I'll do anything to get my car back. It's just a car, Dina. There's no need to get me arrested over it. Let's talk and sort this out. Trust me, you don't want to have your mother-in-law arrested. We're family. You didn't care about my family when you sold my car. You sold a piece of my family's history. You don't get to play the family card now." Vivian was already in tears, begging me to let it go. She was delusional, thinking I would just forgive her horrendous behavior. She pleaded with me until she was taken to the cop car. Before getting in, she shouted at me, "This isn't over, Dina. I'll get my son involved. He'll put you back in your place." "Good luck with that, Vivian. I'm sure your son will do what's right. Focus on getting out of jail. I've said goodbye to my car, but you'll be saying hello to a lawsuit." "You'll get nothing. My son will protect me. He'll come to rescue me and kick you out of the house." Well, her son did go to the police station, but not to rescue her. When Carter called me and asked what was happening, I told him to meet me there. I needed to file a case in person, and it would be better for both of us to meet at the station. Plus, I wanted to see Vivian's face when Carter saw the situation. We met and went straight to Vivian. When she saw him, she started to cry. "Carter, look what your wife has done. She hates me so much she put me in jail. I can't be here, Carter. You need to do something." "Dina, what's going on? Why did you put Mom in jail?" "Hey, Vivian, care to explain to your son what you did with my car?" Vivian suddenly went quiet. She was probably trying to think of an excuse to make herself look better. But she couldn't come up with anything. She stayed quiet with her head down. "Mom, say something. Why are you so quiet?" "What can she say, Carter? She stole and sold my car. then came home with shopping bags and told me she booked us a vacation in Alaska. Wait, what? Mom, what did you do? Oh, there's more, Carter. The cops got a name out of her. They contacted the man, and he said the car was damaged a bit after he got it. So this is going to be a big lawsuit. I can already see it costing $1 million. Oh my God, Mom, what have you done? I told you to stay away from Dina's car. Why can't you just listen for once? Carter had never spoken to his mother in such a tone before. Vivian was surprised and didn't like it at all. She was crying now, trying to make him feel guilty, but I knew Carter wouldn't save her this time. He knew where to draw the line. Vivian still tried, saying, "Son, you need to get me out of here. I can't stay in this place. You have to convince Dina to drop the case. I can't afford a lawsuit. You know that." "Why would I do that, Mom? You're the one who committed a crime by doing something so incredibly stupid. Carter, if you don't help me, my life will be ruined. I'll be broke and still have to serve time in jail. You should have thought about that before breaking the law. I'm going to support Dina in what she's doing. This time, you've gone too far. I can't forgive this. Mom, you're on your own." Vivian kept begging us to change our minds and forgive her, even resorting to begging me for forgiveness again. But I wasn't going to listen. Carter was furious and decided to leave the police station with me. He was really sorry for his mom's actions and said he'd never forgive her for this. He even encouraged me to pursue my case and get my car back. I did eventually get my car back, but it took a while. The buyer had been in a small accident with it, and it got badly dented. Repairing vintage cars can be expensive, and with lawyer fees added in, Vivian ended up paying $1 million for the lawsuit. She was forced to sell her childhood home and take on debts. It was tough for her, but we didn't sympathize. Carter made it clear we didn't want her around anymore. He also said we wouldn't be contacting her for a long time. That made her cry and throw a tantrum again. News of her arrest and lawsuit spread fast. Her friends dropped her, not wanting to associate with a criminal. Even her family was furious, who sells stolen stuff. I was glad to see the rest of the family had some sense. Anyway, we're still not in contact with Vivian and the lawsuit is settled. I got my car back and had a skilled mechanic work on it. All paid for by Vivian, of course. The mechanic did such a good job you wouldn't even know it was damaged. So I got my car back good as new, while Vivian lost her house and is now living alone in a rented apartment, desperate for company. Hi, I'm Taylor, and I'm 29 years old. I have my own house, which I'm really grateful for, especially with how things are with money in America right now. But my husband doesn't see it the same way. He's often negative and proud, especially because I have a better job than him. He's working a low-paying job at the moment and feels pretty frustrated about it. His mom doesn't help either. She keeps putting him down, comparing him to other people and saying he should be more successful like them. She'll say things like, "Why don't we get a better job? Look at Ricky, he's doing so well. He's becoming the CEO of his company, and you're just a manager at the local grocery store. It's embarrassing." Their conversations usually went like this, and it really got to my husband. It started to hurt his pride a lot. Eventually, he even fibbed and said he owned the house instead of me. "Mom, you don't have to say those things. It's not nice. I'll say what I want. He needs to do better. Mom, please stop." He felt so bad about it that he pretended he bought the house himself. "Yeah, Mom, the house is in my name. I used my money to buy it. I'm a homeowner now." "Wow, that's great. So you'll get a better job now, right?" "It's not that simple, I think. I'm just disappointed you spent so much time in university. You could have gotten a good job like your brother. How will you manage this big house with your low-paying job?" "Taylor will help, Mom." "Fantastic. Now, as a grown man, you're depending on your wife to earn money and take care of the house. It's disgusting." Even though Gordon was lying about owning the house, I let him have that little victory so his mom would respect him more. But I realize now it was a big mistake. He's used it as an excuse to be rude and disrespectful towards me. Trying to boost his ego and show off to his mom, he'd become extra aggressive and bossy whenever she was around. He'd act like he was in charge, when really it was me who made our nice life possible in our beautiful house. As his wife, I was kind and understanding, so I went along with his dominant behavior to avoid his mother making him feel bad about himself. But one day, things took a turn for the worse. "Taylor, come downstairs now. My mom's here and she wants food and a foot massage. I hurried downstairs to find my mother-in-law and Gordon chatting. Don't just stand there. Do what you're told. Of course, dear. It's good to see you're finally acting like a man. I'm surprised Taylor puts up with it, considering she's the breadwinner. Yes, but I'm the one who owns the house, so she has to respect me. I'd always roll my eyes internally when he said this. It bothered me how entitled he acted, but I knew it was helping him rebuild his relationship with his mother. Gordon used to be really close with her, but ever since he dropped out of college for a get-rich-quick scheme that turned out to be a scam, the relationship suffered. She warned him against it, but he was too stubborn. When it failed, he was broke and too discouraged to go back to school. Since then, he's been trying to mend things with his mother, but she often ignores him and praises his more successful brother, Ricky. Oh, I forgot to mention, Ricky will be joining us for dinner. Come on, Taylor, let's go make some food. He must be tired after working all day at that big company. Fine. Mariana would often complain to me about how useless her son was whenever she had the chance. Sometimes Gordon overheard these talks. She didn't try to hide her gossiping, which just made her more angry and controlling to show that she was in charge of her household. You might be wondering why I put up with all of this for 8 months, but my patience wore thin when this happened. Mariana and I were in the kitchen, and she was once again talking about how disappointed she was in her son. It's just so sad having a loser for a son. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Honestly, you're stronger than me. I might have left him a long time ago if I were you. I never knew how to respond in these moments. I couldn't agree with her, but I also couldn't disagree, so I'd say something vague. A couple of hours passed and Ricky arrived, greeted by a bitter Gordon. Ricky came into the kitchen to say hello. Hey Taylor, hey Mom. Oh my dear, welcome. You've arrived just in time. Let's set the table. We need to talk to Gordon soon because this has gone too far. Talk to Gordon about what? Oh dear, you'll find out soon. Our visit isn't just a friendly one. We're here to discuss something important with you both. I was confused and a little nervous. What could they want to talk about? After setting the table and saying grace, Mariana decided to reveal her true reason for coming over that day. I have something to say. Ricky and I have been discussing this for a while now, and I think it's time we brought it up with you, Gordon. Yeah, Ricky started. You know, your job right now isn't really enough to sustain. Don't sugarcoat it, Ricky. Gordon, what Ricky means is that your job isn't good enough for you to keep this house. Both Gordon and I were shocked. We'd been found out. You can't keep this house, Mariana continued. Well, not under your name, at least. Owning a house is a big responsibility, and we don't want to see you struggle to pay for it. So I think it's best if your older brother takes over the ownership. It'll save you from any future problems. What? Gordon and I exclaimed at the same time. I'm sorry, but that's not happening, Gordon said firmly. Why not? We're trying to help you, Gordy. I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. I can handle owning a house. I don't need you treating me like some charity case. Oh, Gordon, don't be stubborn. Just go get the title deed. Let's discuss it and go over some details. Mariana and Ricky didn't know that I was the real owner of the house. If they saw the title deed, it would cause chaos, and Gordon would be ostracized from his family. But I realized that the lie couldn't last much longer. I exchanged a glance with Gordon. Actually, Mariana, Ricky, thanks for bringing this up. It's time we tell you the truth about everything. What truth? What's going on? Ricky asked. Well, you see, we've been keeping something from you for a while now. Oh yes, the truth is we can't find the title deed, Gordon suddenly blurted out. I was taken aback by Gordon's statement. I had hoped he would come clean about our secret, but instead he chose to hide behind a lie. We must have misplaced it when we were moving stuff around in the attic. You know how cluttered it is up there with all our junk. It's probably somewhere in the mess. Come on, Gordon. You should know better than to lose such important documents, Ricky scolded. Well, what do you expect from your little brother? He's pretty clueless. How he even managed to buy a house is beyond me, Mariana added. I'll search for it. Give me a couple of days to sort everything out. Fine, but this complicates things. We wanted to get this sorted quickly, but okay. Find the papers and let us know as soon as you do, all right? Okay. While everyone else chatted and ate, I stayed silent. I couldn't believe Gordon's choice. This was his chance to be honest, but instead he chose to add another lie. As they say, lies only make things worse the longer you keep them. After Mariana and Ricky left, I decided to confront Gordon about his decision. Seriously, Gordon. What? I had to do it. There was no other option. There's always a choice, Gordon. You've been living this life for so long. The truth will come out eventually. I don't mean you lecturing me, Taylor. I'm a grown man. Then act like it. Take responsibility for your actions. That's more manly than hiding behind a lie. You know what, Taylor? Stop nagging me. You act like you're the queen of everything, bossing me around. But guess what? You're nothing without me. Excuse me? Whose name is on the title deed? Because it's not yours. Well, maybe it should be. I can't believe you just said that to me. How dare you? Listen, you ungrateful, spoiled brat. I'm the man of this house, and I'll do what I want. I don't care if your name is on the title deed. This is my house, and I make the rules. Now, I'm going to get the title deed and change it to my name. It'll take about 5 to 6 weeks. I'll just tell Mom it took longer than expected. Now go get the deed right now. I was speechless. Gordon had never spoken to me like that in our 4 years of marriage. His frustration and need for approval from his mother had led him to lash out at me. But that didn't excuse his behavior. Now I'm someone who believes in getting even. Some call me petty, but I don't care. Eye for an eye. However, I knew that retaliating wouldn't solve anything. It would just escalate into a shouting match with even harsher words exchanged. So instead, I kept my cool and followed his orders. But in my mind, I was brewing a plan to teach him a lesson. I went to our home office and found the deed easily, being the responsible homeowner that I am. Instead of handing it over, I made a photocopy. Of course, it didn't look authentic, just a black and white version without the proper stamps and details. But I had a plan. I slipped the photocopy into Gordon's work bag and hid the real deed in my secret safe that he didn't know about. By the way, I put the deed in your work bag for tomorrow. I know you have to leave early, so I took care of it for you. You'll find it in there. Great. I'll need to contact the title company to start the process. The next day, while I was at work, I got a call from Gordon. Hey, babe. You put a photocopy of the title deed in my bag. I need the real one for the process. Oh, did I? My mistake. The guy here won't accept the photocopy, and since your name is on the deed, I think you should be involved in the process too. Unlike you, some of us have demanding jobs that require our full attention. Let's schedule a proper meeting to discuss this. What did you just say to me? Do you need my help or not? I knew I'd angered him, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to let him off the hook easily. He needed to learn a lesson. I was done being accommodating, so I allowed myself to be a little petty and throw some jabs. Especially now, when he needed my help more than ever. Yes, I need your help. Fine, I'll handle everything. Okay, bye. Things were getting tense between Gordon and me because I wasn't putting up with his rude behavior anymore. I was going to make sure he learned his lesson. A week passed and Gordon was on a mission to find that title deed. He searched every nook and cranny of the office, even though he knew it wasn't there. He even braved the cluttered attic, despite knowing it was unlikely to be there. But desperate times call for desperate measures, right? Gordon spent the next week tirelessly searching that attic, even taking time off work to do so. Part of me felt guilty watching him search day after day in vain. But then I remembered all the hurtful things he'd said to me, and I didn't feel as sorry for him anymore. Gordon ignored calls from my mother-in-law and avoided Ricky, knowing he'd missed his deadline by a long shot. Another week passed, and one evening Mariana and Ricky both called me. Hello, dear. How are you? I'm good, thanks. I hope you two are doing well, too. Not really, dear. We've been trying to reach Gordon, but he's been ignoring our calls about the title deed. Oh, I know. He's been dodging your calls. Is everything all right? No, actually, he still hasn't found it. Oh, dear, that's not good. Gordon needs to pull himself together. I've been telling him the same thing, but he's not listening to me. See, Ricky, even Taylor has had enough. That's it, we'll come over tomorrow to help him search for the deed. Tell Gordon to take the day off. It's not like he's doing anything important anyway. Mom, I really think we should give him more time. I've waited long enough. Do you know how long these things take? The sooner we get it sorted, the better. Taylor, you make sure Gordon is ready for a long day of searching because I'm tired of waiting. Got it, Mom? But I didn't tell him. I wanted Gordon to face the music. He was already planning to take another day off work to rest, but instead he was greeted by an angry mother and brother. "So, you're sleeping instead of finding what needs to be found." Unbelievable. "It's not a good look, bro. We took time off to help you, and you're just sleeping." What? What's happening?" "We told Taylor we'd be coming to help, but it seems like you didn't want us to." No. Taylor didn't say anything to me. Don't blame Taylor. She's been holding things together while you've been MIA. Why weren't you answering our calls?" "I was just busy." "Busy sleeping, it seems. Anyways, get up. We need to start searching." "Actually, no, you don't have to search. I have the deed." Everyone turned to look at me. I had been listening in the doorway, and I wasn't going to let Ricky and Mariana waste their time looking for something unnecessary. I decided to come clean and embarrass Gordon for his behavior. "Why didn't you tell me they were coming? You know I've been tired from searching. And why didn't you say you have the deed?" "Because there's something you all need to know." "Don't you dare." "The truth is, Gordon doesn't own this house." "I do." "What?" "What? My name is on the deed, not Gordon's. He's been lying to you all, and I went along with it because I loved him. But his behavior lately made me reconsider, so I decided you all needed to know the truth." "Gordon, is this true?" "No, Mom, she's lying." "Lying? Even after being caught? You're unbelievable." I handed the document to Mariana and Ricky. It was the real deed, so they had no reason to doubt it. And there, clear as day, was my name as the owner of the house. "You lied to us all this time, Gordon." "Really? I don't even know what to say anymore." "But I do, Gordon. You're pathetic. Don't try to deny it. You attacked me, saying I'm nothing without you, when in reality, you're the one who needs me." "Wakey said that?" "Yes. That day you proposed changing the name on the deed, he said a lot of hurtful things." "You know I didn't mean it, Taylor. Why would you do this to me? You're my wife." "Oh, I thought I was ungrateful. I thought I was a spoiled brat." "Well, this is how ungrateful, spoiled brats act, sweetie." "Mom, let me explain." "No, I've heard enough, Gordon. You've disappointed me for the last time. You kept up this facade to impress me? You've already let me down. It wouldn't be surprising if you weren't the true owner of this house. But to lie about it for almost a year and mistreat Taylor so much has left a bad taste in my mouth. I can't even look at you." With that, Mariana got up and left, despite Gordon's desperate attempts to stop her. He begged and pleaded, but she was done. "Ricky, please, bro. I swear I wasn't trying to." "Shut up. I should punch you right now for wasting Mom's time, for wasting my time, and for wasting Taylor's time, effort, love, and energy. This woman endured your foolishness for so long, and you still treated her like garbage. You're crazy." I. Save it. Don't bother contacting us for a while. Mom needs some time." Ricky left too, leaving just Gordon and me in the house. It was my turn to speak my mind. "You know what's funny? You call me ungrateful, but you're the one who's truly ungrateful. You're pathetic, and your behavior disgusts me. I'm glad your mother and brother finally saw your true colors. And yeah, you might be a man, but you're not the head of this household. If you want to stay here, you better start respecting me and pulling your weight. Otherwise, you can find somewhere else to be the man." Gordon looked distraught. In no time, he managed to ruin 3 important relationships. That's got to be some kind of record. He shouldn't have underestimated me. Hello, I'm Kayla, a 36-year-old woman. The past few months have been really tough for me, and I'm having to relearn a lot of things. My husband, Tom, caused a lot of the trouble I'm in, but a kind person stepped in and helped me avoid even more pain. First, let me tell you about the people in my story. The first person is my sister, Maya. She's 6 years younger than me and very pretty. Growing up, we didn't get along because I was a nerd and she was popular. She always picked on me and seemed jealous for some reason. My mom tried to help us get along, but it didn't really work. When I went to college, we didn't talk much. But after I graduated and she was a teenager, we started talking again. Our relationship got a little better, but we never got really close. That was the best we could do, and I was okay with that. Next, let me tell you about my ex-husband, Tom. We met at work and got along really well. We dated for about 3 years before getting married. We worked hard and bought our first house together. I earned more money, so the mortgage and deed were in my name. After 2 years of marriage, Tom asked me about having children. "Honey, I was wondering about something, and I need you to think about this with an open mind. All right, what is it? I've been thinking that we've been together for a while now, and maybe we could start a family of our own. Tom, you know how I feel about that. I know, but we have the money for it, and it would be really cute to have little versions of us running around, don't you think? Yeah, but kids are a lot of work and responsibility. We're the most hardworking and responsible people we know. Come on, give it some thought, okay? I promise I'll help take care of them. Just keep that in mind, okay? Even though I wasn't keen on having kids, I gave in because Tom kept bringing it up. First, we had a son, and 3 years later, we had a daughter. Initially, Tom was very helpful, but that quickly changed. Suddenly, I was responsible for everything at home, including the kids. After our first child, Tom insisted I stop working because he had gotten a promotion and was earning more than me. I tried to resist, but eventually, I decided it wasn't worth the fight and accepted my new role. To avoid getting bored at home, I took up a new hobby, hosting dinners. I often invited my mom and sister, who lived nearby, and my mother-in-law, Megan, whenever she was in town. Eventually, I started to feel comfortable in my new life. I got to spend a lot of time with my family, and that made me happy. Tom and I were doing okay. I had gone through some trauma after giving birth to our second child, where I almost died, which affected our relationship. I didn't think anything else was wrong, but oh, how wrong I was. As I was cleaning my room, I found a pair of panties that definitely weren't mine. My heart sank as I stared at them, wondering if I wasn't enough for my husband. I had been feeling different lately, but I had just had our second child. It had been over a year since then, and I was still recovering. I had been going to therapy, making slow progress. But it didn't seem enough because Tom was cheating on me. Once the shock wore off, I was filled with anger and betrayal. I needed to know who my husband was cheating on me with and why. First, I sent Tom a picture of the underwear and asked him whose they were. Then, I checked his laptop. I logged into his social media accounts and went through his chats. At first, I didn't see any unknown women, which confused me more. I looked through his messages but found nothing. In my desperation, I went through every chat, even though I knew it was foolish because everyone in his contacts was someone. I couldn't believe that anyone in my life could hurt me that much. Then I realized that my sister's contact ID was everywhere I looked. At first, I didn't think much of it because why would my sister and husband talking be suspicious? But when I checked their chats, I felt sick to my stomach. They were full of pictures and videos of them in bed, messages about how much they love each other, and plans for Tom to leave me. I couldn't believe my own sister would do something so awful. Our relationship had never been perfect, but this was a whole new level of betrayal. First, I threw up because I was so disgusted. Then, I tried calling Tom, but he didn't answer. So I called my sister. Maya, hey, what's up? Don't hey, what's up me? Seriously, what's wrong with you? I don't know about mine, but I do know that I found a pair of your panties in my bedroom. Have you been sleeping with Tom? Yeah, for a while now. Why, Kayla? Seriously, you thought it was okay to sleep with my husband because you thought I was boring. And being my sister didn't even stop you. Look, I thought I was helping you out. I was keeping Tom busy so you could focus on the kids. Are you serious? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Look, we didn't mean for it to go this far, okay? I only did it because he kept hitting on me, and he's a nice guy, Kayla. But he was my husband. Why would you help tear our family apart? I just want what's best for Tom, okay? If I'm the best for him, then so be it. You're disgusting. I hung up, unable to believe her nerve. I just lay in bed and cried. I never thought my life would come to this. Eventually, my youngest woke up crying, so I tended to her. I felt empty as I went through the motions of the day. I couldn't let my kids know something was wrong. They didn't need that worry. I picked up my older child from school, made dinner, and when they asked where their dad was, I lied and said he was working late. At some point, my anger turned into worry. It was almost 11 o'clock at night, and Tom still wasn't home. I tried calling him multiple times, but he didn't answer. I even tried calling my sister to see if he was there, but she didn't pick up either. Exhausted from the day, I went to bed, hoping it was all just a bad dream. The next morning, I woke up feeling like something was wrong. I looked around and realized Tom's things were gone from the room. I checked the cupboards and drawers, and most of his stuff was gone from the house too. He had left while I was asleep, without saying a word. I couldn't believe it. He just left me without even trying to talk. I didn't know what to do. All I could think about was taking care of my kids first. Then, I'd figure out everything else. I woke up, got the kids ready, dropped off the oldest at school, and then took the youngest to my mom's place. She could tell something was off because I was distant. All I could think about was how I'd managed to raise 2 kids alone. Whenever I came back to reality, I remember I had to tell my mom about my sister and husband. Eventually, she couldn't wait any longer and asked what was wrong. Okay, I've had enough of your silence. What's going on? I don't know how to say this. Why don't you start from the beginning? Well, I found out that Tom has been cheating on me. What? How do you know? I found another woman's underwear in our room. When I asked Tom about it, he didn't answer and then left. He left? What do you mean? When I woke up this morning, all his things were gone. Gone? You didn't try to stop him? I didn't even realize when he came back. I fell asleep around midnight, and when I woke up, all his stuff was gone. Oh my God, my poor girl, I'm so sorry this happened. Yeah, it gets worse. Oh no, what happened? Do you know who Tom cheated on you with? You mean you know who he cheated with? Yeah, I snooped through his things to find out. I wouldn't have tolerated this under normal circumstances, but this is different. So, who is it? Maya. Excuse me? What? Are you serious? Yeah, my husband has been cheating on me with my own sister. I called her to ask about it, and she was so casual about it. She said they were in love, and she believed she was the best for him. So she was going to keep being with him. Oh my God, what has Maya done? I don't even know how I'm going to survive. I have 2 kids to raise and I need to find a job too. Look, why don't you just get some rest while I try to process this? I'll be here to help you, okay? Yeah, okay, thanks, Mom. I had become numb to everything that had happened, so telling my mom wasn't as hard as I thought. I ended up sleeping while my mom took care of my youngest. When I woke up, I heard my baby crying and my mom yelling. I rushed out and saw my mom on the phone looking angry. She hung up and seemed surprised to see me. She apologized for the noise but didn't say more. I knew she had been giving Maya a piece of her mind. Over the next few days, Mom stayed with us. It was easier having one person move and then 3. Maya kept trying to contact our mom, but she asked me to block Maya. It was comforting to have someone understand my feelings when I felt so alone. I found out through mutual friends that Tom and Maya got married. They reached out to me, concerned and confused. I had to explain everything, which was humiliating, but they were supportive. They all blocked Tom and Maya and refused to associate with them. But I found out they got married the day after Tom left us. It hurt to know, but I shouldn't have expected anything different from them. When I told my mom, she was furious. You should know, my mom is usually calm, so seeing her so angry with my sister was surprising. It was great to have her financial support. She wasn't obligated to help, but she did her best for us. She even helped me get job interviews because I wanted to contribute now that Tom wasn't there to stop me. Taking care of the kids was manageable, but when they asked about Tom, I had to hold back tears. Still, we got through it. A week later, I got a letter from Tom. I didn't want anything to do with it. I figured it was some apology, but I was done with him. A week was too long to try to fix things, especially after he ran away from his family. So I did the next best thing I could think of. I burned the letter. But afterward, I couldn't help but be curious about what it said. Sometimes I wished I had read it before burning it. But then I reminded myself that nothing he could have said would change how I felt about him and what he did. The next day, my mom and I took the kids to the fair. We had a blast, and it was nice to be in a lively place after everything. I finally got to have fun and laugh, which felt great after such a tough time. That night, my mom and I relaxed with a bottle of wine, and I told her about the letter. So something came in the mail for me last night. Oh, what was it? It was a letter from Tom. What? What did it say? I don't know. What do you mean? You opened it, right? No, I didn't want to deal with anything he had to say, so I burned it. You burned it? Kayla, what if they were official divorce papers? The envelope didn't look legal at all. I'm sure it wasn't that. Well, if you're sure. What do you think was in it? I don't know. Maybe a weak apology or a request for his stuff back. I wouldn't be surprised. But how are you feeling about all of this now? Well, today was a good day. It's tough, especially when the kids keep asking where their dad is. What do I even tell them? It's slowly getting better, but only a little. As long as it's improving. I'm always here for you, and just so you know, I'm planning to cut ties with your sister. Everything I have will go to you and the kids. Oh, Mom, that means a lot, but are you sure? Maya is still your daughter. I know you and Maya had your differences, but what she did is unforgivable. I raised both of you better than this, and Maya clearly didn't care. So she's no longer my daughter. I would have been upset if Mom changed her mind easily, but I knew Maya was still her child. I couldn't imagine how hard it must have been for Mom to make that decision, because I could never do that to my kids. It made me even more grateful to have someone so supportive. Another 3 days passed, and I heard a knock on the door. It was strange because I wasn't expecting anyone, and besides my mom, who was at work, no one ever visited. I opened the door cautiously and saw 2 men in black suits. I only opened the door a little and asked who they were. They said they were lawyers and had something for me. They handed me a note and then a check. It was made out to me, and it was for $750,000. My jaw dropped when I saw the amount. I tried to tell them there must be a mistake, but they said there wasn't and urged me to read the note. The note began with, "Thank you for saving me." As I read on, I realized the money was from my mother-in-law, Megan. She explained that she had visited us 3 days ago, but no one was home. She called Tom, who tried to make it seem like he couldn't get in, but I had changed the locks after he left. Megan sensed something was wrong with Tom's behavior and pressed him until he confessed everything. She was disgusted by his actions. Megan felt sorry for what I had gone through and decided to leave all her inheritance to me and her grandkids. She thanked me for preventing her from making a mistake and for not trusting her son with her assets. That's what the check was for. The lawyers then told me that Megan had been terminally ill and had passed away just the day before. She wanted me to have the money right after her death to ensure her daughter-in-law and grandkids were well taken care of. Tears filled my eyes at Megan's kindness and loss. She was truly remarkable, always standing up for what was right. It was one of the reasons Tom had always been afraid of her. Yet I found her comforting. She stayed true to her word and supported me until her last breath. A few days later, Tom called. I already knew what he was going to say, but I decided to hear him out. "What did you do?" "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean, Tom. You'll have to be more specific." "What are you talking about?" "Why weren't you home that day? I specifically asked you to be. I sent you a letter asking you to pretend everything was normal while my mom visited." "Oh, is that what the letter said?" "You didn't read it." "No, I burned it." "You betrayed me. My mother was going to help me with the inheritance, but you took it all because you're selfish." "That's ironic coming from you. You abandoned your family and only cared about contacting me when it involved your inheritance. Love can't be forced. I did what was best for me, and your mother did what was best for us. Don't ever try to contact me or the kids again. Goodbye." After that, things moved quickly. I filed for divorce, and I was granted full custody of the kids. Tom tried to fight for the inheritance, but Megan had made it clear that I was the one to receive it, so he didn't succeed. Tom and Maya tried to pressure me into giving them some of the money, but I stood my ground and refused. Life has become easier since we got the money. I put a portion aside for my kids' college and invested the rest. My mom could retire, and I started working. My kids have come to terms with their dad not coming back, and when they're older, I'll tell them everything. I'm still hurting, but I know things can only get better from here. Greetings, I'm Olivia, and at 40 years old, I've got quite the roller coaster of a tale to share. It all revolves around my sorry excuse for an ex. Though legally we're still hitched, I've mentally tagged him as my ex-husband due to his despicable actions towards me and our daughter 4 years back. Back when Kimberly was just 14, we found ourselves in dire straits, struggling to make ends meet thanks to my husband's reckless squandering our finances. The tension simmered in our household as one salary simply couldn't cut it for our family. Despite my efforts to shield her, Kimberly sensed the discord, growing to resent her father for his frivolous spending habits. His secrecy about his expenditures only fueled her suspicions. Then came that fateful June 16th, a cold and rainy day when he up and left for good. We knew he wouldn't return, and with each passing year, our disdain for him deepened. "Mom, I hate him," Kimberly confessed. "I know, sweetheart. I do too, but we'll survive and we'll thrive," I reassured her. And that's exactly what we did. I took the plunge, leaving my job to dive into affiliate marketing and content writing. It was tough, but after a year of relentless effort, I found success. We became homeowners, and I even splurged on a luxurious car for us. Our fortunes continued to rise, and I couldn't be prouder of Kimberly, who followed suit with her own online content career, amassing a substantial following. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and we were hit hard by the loss of Henry, my ex-father-in-law and Kimberly's grandpa. Despite the rift with my ex, we remained close to his parents, grateful for their support during our toughest times, both financially and emotionally. Their anger and hurt towards Ben's actions were palpable. But Henry, his father, bore the brunt of devastation. While the rest of us resigned to Ben's absence, Henry clung to hope, believing that one day Ben would return with a justification that would absolve him in our eyes. It may sound absurd, but Henry's compassionate nature couldn't fathom anything less. Sadly, Henry's hopes were dashed as he passed away without ever witnessing Ben's return. Though he lived a full life, the absence of communication from his son undoubtedly hastened his demise. Kimberly and I attended the funeral, where we found solace in the embrace of Aria, Kimberly's grandmother, and my ex-mother-in-law. The sorrowful occasion united us in grief, but amidst the somber atmosphere, something inexplicable occurred, something so startling it defied belief. Amidst the pale, grief-stricken faces, I could have sworn I witnessed a ghost. My eyes played tricks on me, conjuring the image of a man long dead to me, my husband. It wasn't an apparition, but rather Ben himself, though he bore the semblance of a ghost. His gaunt figure and drained complexion suggested he carried the weight of grief, perhaps upon hearing of his father's passing. As he approached, shock rippled through the crowd. Kimberly's screams filled the air, her pent-up rage exploding at her father's reappearance. Aria wept even harder, grappling with the unraveling of her family. But I remained frozen, caught between disbelief and the tumult of emotions coursing through me. I felt paralyzed, a torrent of emotions rendering me immobile. "It's evident your presence isn't welcome," Kimberly's words cut through the tension. "You don't just waltz in here like nothing happened. Leave the same way you left 4 years ago. I hate you, and I don't want you here." "Oh my goodness, Ben, how could you have left all those years ago? Your father died of a broken heart, you know." Aria's plea echoed through the cemetery. "Let him stay," I surprised myself with a sudden interjection, breaking the stunned silence that had enveloped us all. After what felt like an eternity, I realized that this wasn't the time or place for such a dramatic outburst of pent-up emotions. Despite my contempt for him, Ben had lost his father and deserved the chance to bid him farewell. I conveyed this sentiment to everyone present, and reluctantly, they agreed to maintain civility, at least for the sake of dear Henry, who was no longer among us. The funeral proceeded, and later, at my home, Ben's presence lingered like an unwelcome specter. "Nice place you got here," he remarked, attempting to break the tension. "Cut the crap, Ben," I retorted sharply. "You don't just waltz in here like nothing happened. If you want to stay, you have to tell us everything, absolutely everything, because—" "I will not let you taint this beautiful home with your negative energy," I asserted firmly. "Olivia has worked too hard for this place. You owe us an explanation, starting with why you look like a zombie." Ben's expression faltered for a moment before he responded. "Actually, scratch that. You can start by stating your business. What exactly do you want?" "Because we all know you're not here because of Grandpa's funeral." "Of course I'm here because of my father's funeral," Ben retorted, his tone defensive. "He was my father. But I'm also here for another thing. I'm here to collect my inheritance." I had to physically restrain Kim before she launched another attack. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, heads turning towards the brewing altercation. Aria managed to calm the onlookers while I guided Ben and Kim to a more secluded area of the house. "Don't call me that," Kim snapped as soon as we were out of earshot. "I'm not your anything. You forfeited the right to call me that the moment you decided to leave us to fend for ourselves with no explanation or anything. What sort of father does that? I try to forgive you, but I simply can't." "Look, Kim, Olivia, I'm sorry about everything." Ben's apology hung heavy in the air, but whether it was sincere or not remained to be seen. "I really am, but I desperately need the money." Ben's voice wavered, his desperation palpable. "I'm in some hot water right now. Do you think we care about you and your problems?" Kim's tone was sharp. By the looks of it, you seem to have gotten yourself in with the wrong crowd. Are you doing drugs? Ben hesitated, and suddenly, his pallor and sickly appearance made sense. Ben, Aria's voice cut through the tension as she joined us. Now that I've sorted everything out, can you please explain what happened? Your father waited for you all this time, holding on to hope that you would return one day with a good enough explanation to dispel our doubts. So please tell me that you come bearing some good news. Tell me something to believe in. I came here to get my inheritance money, Mom, Ben confessed. He's on drugs, Grandma, Kim interjected bitterly. That's why he came here, to get his inheritance money so that he can buy more drugs. No, it's not like that at all, Ben protested. You were right about me hanging with the wrong crowd. Let's just say that I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and now I owe some people some money. How much are we talking about? Aria's voice trembled with concern. 50,000, Ben admitted reluctantly. What did you do? I couldn't hide my shock. Well, that is great, Kim's sarcasm dripped with bitterness. So, you need to tell me while Mom and I were struggling to keep warm and feed ourselves, you were messing around with shady people. Ha. Well, we won't help you with that. You made your bed, and now you have to lay in it. I know you're upset, sweetie. I tried to intervene, but Kim's anger was relentless. But please, let's just. Are you trying to defend him right now? Kim's accusation hung heavy in the air. He left us, Mom. I know, Kimberly, he didn't just leave you. Okay, he left me too. He left your grandmother as well, and he left Grandpa too. He broke all of our hearts, and we don't ever have to forgive him for doing that. But clearly, he's learned his lesson, right? I mean, just look at him. It's so crazy how I was defending him so wholeheartedly back then when in the end, it was because of me that he eventually did what he did. Shortly after the funeral was finalized, Ben was staying in a motel, and Aria and I, mostly Aria, would visit him to see if he needed anything. Kim refused the idea of even seeing his face again. We just wanted to finalize his inheritance so that he could be on his merry way. Kim and I decided that we didn't want much to do with him, but Aria, seeing as she was his mother, obviously wanted to try and rekindle something. As the weeks went by and the family lawyers did their best to authenticate Henry's will and determine inheritance values, Aria brought Ben to the house so that she could, at the very least, promote a civil environment amongst us all. As much as the bitterness and hatred weren't going to do us any good, it was going to take a long time for us to be anywhere near that. Kim would sometimes come just to sit and not speak, but she mostly opted out of the whole thing. Finally, the lawyers informed us of the inheritance amounts that each person would receive, and by some lucky stroke of fate, it turned out that the inheritance money that Ben would receive amounted to $50,000. Kim was infuriated. She didn't find it fair that the person who robbed her of her happiness for many, many years gets to be rewarded out of the blue. As much as she was an adult, she was still my baby, and I could understand her frustrations. But unfortunately, it wasn't up to her to decide whether he would get the money or not. Aria and I were seemingly nonchalant about the findings, and honestly, I just wanted this whole process to be done with so that I could go back to living my good life. As Ben assimilated to this lifestyle, it appeared his demeanor changed. He went from shy, timid, and remorseful to slightly arrogant and cocky, especially upon hearing he would receive exactly what he came for. I noticed this behavioral shift but opted not to say anything, chalking it up to the drugs he was doing. It was so sad to see a man who used to be so respectable end up like this. I just couldn't understand. A few more weeks went by, and Aria told me, Ben's inheritance money is ready to be collected. He doesn't know about it yet, but I wanted to inform you beforehand. I know it's a terrible thing to give such a large amount of money to an addict. I don't even want to think about what he'd do. I'm so sorry, my child, but I just don't think I can handle giving him the money just to see him disappear again. It would shatter that sliver of hope I have left for him. I can't be the one to give it to him. Please, can you do it? Of course, Aria. I can't imagine how hard this has been on you. I reassured her. It takes a different type of strength as a mother to witness such an awful thing happen to your baby. You've been strong for too long, Ma. It's time for you to rest. Please, don't worry. I'll handle everything. Although I took on the task of handing Ben the money, I too needed some time to collect myself and find peace with whatever outcome lay ahead. Ironically enough, I sought solace in the attic, surrounded by relics of my old life. Despite the painful memories they once held, these artifacts now served as reminders of how far I'd come. As I sat amidst the old and dusty remnants of our past, memories flooded back. The plastic tea set, a bargain from a yard sale during our toughest times when proper dishes and cutlery were beyond our reach. The half-dead heater, its unreliable warmth forcing Kim and me to huddle together for comfort, though it was never enough. My gaze fell upon Ben's old chest, filled with what I assumed to be his work documents. I'd always been hesitant to explore its contents, fearing the truth of how much money had been drained from our household to sustain his other, seemingly more important, lifestyle. But on this day, the day I was meant to hand him the inheritance money, fear gave way to curiosity. I broke open the worn chest to uncover a trove of bank statements and checkbooks, each one detailing the extent of Ben's financial recklessness. With a sinking feeling, I realized the account recipient was named Maria. I didn't know of a Maria, but as I began to dig deeper, I found out who exactly she was, and it made my heart drop. Deep within the chest was a letter, handwritten and addressed to Ben. It read, "Dear Ben, when are we going to stop sneaking around like this? I'm getting bored and tired of your inability to kick your wife and kid to the curb like you said you would. You seem to enjoy spending months with me, taking all of my drugs, and then going back to your family even though you clearly hate them. If you don't tell them the truth, I will get Manuel involved. You already owe him tons of money from all the drugs you do with him for free. And this is how you want to treat me? I'm giving you 24 hours to get this done. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble. Maybe I'll tell your wife all about me and our affair, as well as all the expensive bags and shoes you buy me. Or maybe I'll tell Manuel to get his goons to sort you out. Maybe I'll do both. Who knows? All of this can be avoided if you just do what we agreed upon. Remember, 24 hours or your entire life is going to come crashing down. Tick, tick, babe. Shale, Maria." Reading this letter almost made my heart explode in my chest. So Ben was having an affair before he left, and he had spent the money on his mistress. The thought made me want to vomit. This man had prioritized his party animal lifestyle while his wife and kid were at home starving. Completely unforgivable and utterly disgusting. This was what I had been waiting for, the explanation for all of his horrendous behavior. It simply boiled down to selfish self-indulgence. The rage and bitterness that I had harbored for so long began to boil within me at this point. I was moving on autopilot, fueled by a mixture of anger and disbelief. Gathering everything from the chest, I stormed to the dingy motel where Ben was living. Bursting through the door, I found Ben amidst a pile of drugs on the bed. "You are completely unbelievable. You're doing drugs just as I was about to give you the money." "What? You have the money?" "That's great. Give it to me," Ben retorted, his voice laced with indifference. "You are pathetic, and you make me sick." "Yeah, well, I don't care. Give me the money, Olivia." I flung the papers at him, holding onto the letter I had discovered just moments ago while he was sifting through the bank statements he conveniently hid from me. As I began to read the letter out loud, he froze. If he didn't look sickly and pale before, he looked emaciated now. "You got this letter on June 15th, right? The day before you just up and left," I accused. "I'm gonna explain," Ben stammered, but I cut him off sharply. No, Ben, you can't explain. The time for explaining is over. You're 4 years too late." "I was sick, Olivia. I still am sick." As you can see, he attempted to defend himself. "Stop all the excuses, Ben. You think I wasn't tired? You think I didn't want relief anywhere I could find it? We all make choices, Ben. You're a grown man, damn it." I. Ben's voice faltered as he struggled to find his words. "You left us because you were having an affair," I accused. "It wasn't like that," he protested weakly. "Then what was it like?" I demanded. I never loved you. I never wanted that life. I never wanted to be with you. I just got with you and had the kids so that Mom and Dad could get off my back. I never wanted responsibility, and frankly, I don't care enough to rekindle or mend anything between us. Not you, not Kimberly, and not even my mother. I know it sounds awful to say, but it's the truth. Take it or leave it. Now, give me my money." I can't say I'm surprised, actually. You've always been the evil villain to me, and that's all you ever were. Even now, as I look at you, you look like some demon from a comic book. You're disgusting. Olivia, I really don't care what you think about me. Just give me my money. You might not care what I think. You might not even care about what your mother and daughter think as well, but it appears as though a certain Maria and Manuel have a hold on you, even if it's just a little bit. He froze once more. Bingo. I take it that you managed to escape them. Right now, you're running with a new crew, and because you're a pathetic mess, you managed to mess up those relations also. He briefly nodded. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave this place immediately without the money. You won't get a single dime of this inheritance money. Consider this money reparations for Kimberly and me. You owe us that much at least. What? Are you crazy? Tom's gonna kill me if I come back without his money. That's not my problem. You should have thought about that before engaging with this stuff. And what if I refuse? Well, then I believe that someone with a very large following on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube might just accidentally leak some very private information about you. You know, the type of information that can reach anybody, including people named Manuel and Maria. Additionally, somebody else with a very successful blog and website can write an article further exposing you to absolutely anybody with an internet connection. All right, I hear you loud and clear. Yeah, I'm giving you 24 hours to get all of your things and get out of here. Get out of this city. Hell, get out of this state. Your presence isn't welcome here. You don't need to say goodbye to anybody. I'm going to tell Aria and Kimberly everything as if their hearts haven't been broken enough. What a shame indeed. I don't even know what to say. How about show good luck? Let's hope your drug buddies don't rough you up too badly. Although now that I think about it, I don't care what they do to you. You've already been dead to me for 4 years now. He left town the next day. Thankfully, none of us has seen him since. I am just very content in the fact that all three of us have some closure on where Ben had gone and why. Hello, my name's Mabel and I'm 30 years old. Recently, I came into a large fortune and it revealed the ugly side of my husband. Today, I want to share my story and how I unintentionally got revenge on 2 people at once. Let me start by telling you a bit more about myself. I grew up away from my grandparents, but we were still very close. I remember that every few months they would visit us just to spend time with me. I was especially close to my grandmother. I was the apple of her eye, and she never ceased to spoil me. When my grandfather passed away when I was 17, I was devastated and my grandmother didn't take it well either. I loved her dearly, so when it was time for me to go to college, I chose to attend one in her state to be closer to her. It was in college that I met my ex-husband, Toby. We started dating during our junior year and had a pretty good relationship. Toby was everything I was looking for in a partner, which is why I continued the relationship even after we graduated. We got engaged a few months after graduating but decided to wait until we were in a stable financial situation to get married. In the meantime, since I had a better apartment, Toby moved in with me. While my relationship with Toby was great, I could not get along with his sister Julia. Julia didn't live in the same state as us because she moved with her husband when he got a better job. But she still doted on Toby excessively. She hated me from the moment we met, probably thinking I was stealing her baby brother from her. She was always rude and unaccommodating. The only reason I tolerated her visits was because she would bring over her daughter, Viola. Viola and I got along really well from the time she was a baby. She only seemed to like being with me, and I enjoyed it. Julia was glad to have some time to herself, but that didn't stop her from being mean to me. Toby never stood up for me because he loved his sister too much to hurt her feelings. Not wanting to cause a rift between them, I just shut up and dealt with it. About 3 years after we got engaged, Toby and I were doing well enough, so we decided to get married. It was an amazing day, and yes, I'll even say that now. Everything was going great until 4 years after we got married, when 2 major things happened. The first was that my grandmother passed away. I was heartbroken and honestly could not do much during that time. I inherited about $1 million in money and assets combined, but none of that mattered to me because my grandmother was gone. The second thing that happened was that Julia and her family moved back into town. Suddenly, Toby was rarely at home. He was almost always over at Julia's, and when he was home, Julia was often there too. The only thing keeping me sane was the time I spent with Viola. While I was still grieving the loss of my grandmother, Toby's absence became more apparent. I tried to talk to him about it, but he didn't seem to care until one day he came home directly after work, alone, a pretty rare occasion. "Hey sweetie, How was your day? It was pretty good. What about you? Oh, same old. I went to meet Julia, and we got to talking. You seem to be visiting Julia a lot. Yeah, we're really close. I miss her, and I guess I just feel better when I'm with her. When I'm around her anyways. Do you not want to know what we talked about? Yeah, sure. Tell me. Well, I was telling her that we were planning on buying a house. I'm going to cut you off right there. I never agreed to that. Just listen to me. Julia asked me how I had the funds for it, and I told her all about your inheritance. She suggested that it would actually be a great investment for us to make. And why is that? I mean, you have more than enough money to almost fully purchase a house. I really think that we should invest in it. We'll be well settled for the rest of our lives. But I want to invest my money in something better. What's better than securing a house for ourselves? I can think of several better things that can at least be put to use for our future. I don't want to spend all my money on one thing. It's like you're trying to tell me that your money is yours and not mine to begin with. Well, it kind of is. I get to decide what I want to do with it, and you have no say in it. Look, you either invest your money in something for the both of us, or I'm leaving. Where would you go? You're literally begging me to buy a house with my money for your future. If you choose to leave, that's your loss. Oh, so you're okay with me leaving all because you want to keep your money to yourself. Don't try and act as if that's what I was saying, Toby. You're the one threatening to leave me if I don't spend on you. You're the one who brought it up. Yes, because I thought you loved me and wanted to spend your future with me. Forgive me for looking out for us. You're really bad at whatever you're trying to do here. I'm keeping my money, and I get to decide where and how I spend it. Fine, but could you at least think about spending it on a house for us? Sure. I wasn't sure why Toby was being so adamant about buying the house, but something did not seem right to me, which is why I knew I had to stand my ground. Toby began to distance himself from me after that conversation. He started spending even more time at Julia's place. Julia stopped coming over except to drop Viola off when she needed me to babysit her. I tried to talk to Toby on multiple occasions and asked him what was wrong, but he always brushed me off and told me there was nothing wrong. Eventually, I gave up and figured that I'd just wait until Toby was ready to talk. However, things took a turn when one day Julia dropped Viola off at my place for me to babysit her. Hey Viola, how's my favorite niece doing? I'm your only niece. Still my favorite though. I hope I'll always be your favorite. Of course you will be. Anyways, what do you want to do today? I was thinking we could get our nails done and then get some ice cream. Yay, can I paint my nails pink? Of course you can. And can I get strawberry ice cream? Why can't you? We'll get you everything you want. I only have one niece, and if I don't spoil her, would I really be her aunt? You know you're my favorite aunt. I really will miss you. Miss me, sweetie. What do you mean? I'm not going anywhere. Are you sure? Yes, of course. Where do you think I'll be going? Well, it's just that. What is it? You can tell me anything. I swear I won't tell anyone else a word. Okay, well, I heard Mommy and Uncle talking the other day. Uncle as in Uncle Toby? Yeah, Mommy said she's going to help Uncle with getting some cases. Cases? What are you talking about? They kept talking about some cases that would give them some money, and then she told Uncle that he would have a nice big house after he left you. What? Oh my God, sweetie, when did you hear this? Like 2 days ago. Are you sure you heard correctly? Yes, I'm sure. As soon as Mommy saw that I was listening to them, she yelled at me to go to my room. She also told me not to tell you anything about her talk with Uncle, but I only told you because you're my favorite aunt. Thank you so much, sweetie. Now enough of this. Let's go out and have a fun day. I tried my best to go about the rest of the day as if I hadn't heard what Viola told me. I could tell she felt bad for telling me, but I reassured her that she did nothing wrong. I spoiled her as I always did, and when it was time for her to go back home, I made her promise not to tell her mom or Toby what she had shared with me. Viola promised not to say a word and hugged me goodbye when Julia picked her up from my place. As soon as they left, panic began to rise in my chest. I knew something was off with Toby, but realizing he was trying to trick me into spending my money on him was a new low. It was something I would have never expected from him. Desperate, I did the only thing I could think of. I called Toby's father, Edgar, who was a lawyer. I didn't know why I called him, considering he could have been in on Toby and Julia's plan. However, I had a gut feeling that Edgar was a good man. Besides, he had always treated me like a princess when I visited his place and put Julia in her place whenever she tried to bully me. Edgar picked up the call in his usual warm manner. Hello, darling. To what do I owe this phone call? Hi, Edgar, how are you? Oh, I'm doing quite well. What about you? I actually don't know. I called because I need your help. My help? What could I help you with? Isn't Toby around? He is, but he's kind of the problem. Oh no, I always told that boy to treat you right because it's really hard to come by women as amazing as you. Thank you, Edgar. You may be the only one in your family who thinks of me as amazing. What are you talking about? Well, I was babysitting Viola the other day, and she told me that Toby and Julia were planning something against me. Against you? What do you mean? She didn't know the specifics, but there is a case involved. Apparently, they plan on taking money from me. What in God's name are you telling me? I don't know the full story either. I'm worried, and I figured I'd come to you for help, considering you're a lawyer. You did a great job coming to me. Now tell me, do you believe Viola? I do, especially because in the past few months, Toby has been distancing himself from me. I tried talking to him, but he never took me seriously. All right, and why do you think Julia is involved? Ever since she moved back, they began to spend a lot of time together. I get that they were living far apart for years, but in the past few months, he's been going over to her house for hours every single day. That's a little weird. Did something happen a few months ago that triggered Toby's behavior? Yes, I got my grandmother's inheritance after she passed away. It was a large amount of money. Toby wanted to use it to buy a house, but I was hesitant. After that, he's been acting strange. Right, my guess is that they're trying to get your money. First of all, I'm so sorry that my children are doing this to you. This is not how I raised them. Secondly, why don't you drop by my office tomorrow, and we'll hash this out properly. That sounds great, and you have nothing to apologize for. You're clearly a good man. Thank you for helping me out. I don't know what I would do without you. I was genuinely grateful that Edgar was helping me out. I didn't think he would side with me over his children, but I was glad that he did. The next day, I took a day off from work and made my way to Edgar's office. Once there, Edgar apologized once again for Toby and Julia's behavior, but I told him to focus on helping me navigate the situation. We suspected that Toby was going to ask for a divorce, so our first order of business was to contact all the reputable divorce lawyers in our city and ask for advice. This would limit Toby's access to good lawyers due to the conflict of interest since they already knew my side. Next, we needed to figure out how they planned to take my inheritance from me. Thankfully, I had been smart enough to keep my inheritance money in a separate bank account and had not used it to buy anything for Toby or me. I had planned on buying Toby some luxury items he'd always wanted, but clearly that was never going to happen. Since there was no other way for them to get that money from me, Edgar and I figured they were planning to outright steal from me. The only thing I could control was setting up the perfect trap to catch them. You see, I had a top-of-the-line security system installed in my apartment because I was paranoid about break-ins, which was a fact Toby knew and agreed to when he moved in. The next step was to subtly let Toby know that my bank details were logged in on my laptop. This wasn't hard. I just pretended to have some banking issues that he could help me with. Finally, I told Toby that I was going to meet a friend over the weekend, leaving him home alone. I then met Edgar, who would serve as a witness and corroborate my alibi. In the middle of our conversation, I received a notification that money had been transferred from my account to our joint account. I immediately called the police and reported it. When I got back from meeting Edgar, Toby was sitting in the dining room and asked me to sit with him. We need to talk. Oh, about what? About us? Okay, we're not working out. I agree. You agree? What do you mean? Well, for starters, I did not like how you threatened to end the relationship over money. Money I would have spent on us had you not done that. I didn't think you would. And that's another point. You think so lowly of me. I don't think that's a sign of a good partner. Like you've been a good partner, you've been selfish since the start, and I only put up with it because. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was the police arriving to investigate the reported theft. I loved you. How in the world was I selfish? I helped you pay off your student loans first instead of mine. I supported you for a whole year when you didn't have a job. I sacrificed so much to make sure you were happy. The few times I didn't do what you wanted, you labeled me as a selfish monster. Don't act like what you did was some righteous thing. I would have done the same for you. Would you? You never helped me out when I was sick. Why would I think you would have sacrificed your comfort for me when I really needed it? You're just trying to make me feel bad. No, and the last reason I don't want to be with you is that I don't want to be with a lying, manipulative thief. What are you saying? Don't think I don't know about what you and Julia have been planning. I saw you transfer money out of my account into our joint account. I know you wanted to split that during the divorce. No. Oh, don't even bother. I know everything. You are a pathetic man, and I see no reason to be with you. Well, I'll still get half of what I transferred into our account. I still win. Will you? If I recall correctly, I had security cameras installed in my apartment. You made that transaction from my laptop at a time when I wasn't home. I already reported you for theft. The police should be here any time now. You did what? Oh, here they come. Good luck. Just then, the doorbell rang. The police had arrived to investigate the reported theft. I'll see you in court. The relief I felt at finally seeing Toby pay for his actions was unparalleled. The following weeks were a nightmare of courtroom sessions and evidence viewing. Along with the charges of theft against him, I also filed for a divorce. Edgar was my lawyer, and he fought long and hard to ensure Toby paid properly for his crime. Edgar won the case for me, and Toby was sentenced to 2 years in jail and fined an additional $30,000. Nothing was sweeter than the taste of revenge. Just as Edgar and I were celebrating our victory, Julia came up to us. Julia had conveniently been absent during all the previous trials and only chose to show up on the day of the verdict. That in itself spoke volumes about her. But when she approached us, she looked angry and pointed her finger at Edgar. Dad, you were helping this witch. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't have helped Toby. I don't know, because she literally put your son in jail, and he deserved his sentence. That will make him think twice before trying to steal from someone again. How could you do that to your own son? No, Julia, how could you do that to your own brother? Don't think I did not see the real reason behind your plan. You were going to help Toby get the money so you could also reap the benefits of it. I was trying to give him a break from this jerk here. You have no idea how toxic she is for him. I don't think she was the toxic one, Julia. You were a bad influence on him, and he was stupid enough to fall for your little game. He's getting the punishment he deserves, and maybe now he'll think twice before ever listening to you again. You know you're going to lose him this way. He will never talk to you again. Good, because I have no children as far as I'm concerned. Don't be so dramatic. I'll be here, but I'm not happy with the way you treated my baby brother. As far as I'm concerned, neither you nor your brother are my children because I know for a fact that this is not how I raised my kids. What are you talking about? What I'm saying is that I'm disarming both of you, and I want nothing to do with either of you. You can't do that. I actually can, and I'm going to do just that. This is all Mabel's fault. If she just thought of someone other than herself for a second, this would not have been happening. No, you should not have been so greedy. I was going to spoil Toby with all the things he wanted. But you had to interfere. You took away everything from him, and I hope you sit and think long and hard about what you did to your brother. Goodbye. I grabbed Edgar's hand and we left. We couldn't help but let out a chuckle at what had happened. I was happy that Toby got what he deserved and that I was going to be free of his manipulative ways. I was also happy to see Edgar take my side. I did feel bad that it was because of me that he had lost both of his children, but he assured me that it was their own decisions that led to that. I took him out for coffee afterward, and we've maintained a good friendship ever since. Julia harassed me a bunch over text, and Edgar took it upon himself to tell Julia and her husband to leave me alone. Now this is where I unintentionally got revenge on Julia as well. You see, Julia's husband had no idea about Julia's involvement in what happened between Toby and me. So he called Edgar and asked him what happened and was shocked to learn about what Julia had done. Apparently, their marriage had been in the dumps for a while because of Julia's constant nagging that he never brought home enough money while simultaneously refusing to work. He did not like that she would go to such lengths and ask for a divorce. Of course, he also asked for full custody of Viola and managed to get almost full custody. Julia got custody for every other weekend. Not to mention, she didn't get much through that divorce either, considering that he had her sign an ironclad prenup before marriage. Julia only received a small amount of alimony for a set period of time, and she was kicked out of their house. Once again, she blamed it all on me. And if I'm being completely honest, I was a little happy to see the way she got what she deserved. She tried to meddle in someone else's life, and she paid the ultimate price for it. Not to mention, I got to see Viola still because she loved me, and Julia's ex-husband could not say no to Viola. He was very apologetic for what Julia did, but I reminded him that he had no idea, so he had nothing to apologize for. And before you ask, yes, I am spoiling Viola senseless. As for me, my life is only getting better. I got a promotion at work and also decided to hire an accountant to help manage all my finances. I have invested my money in a few places, and it's only a matter of time before I get my returns on those. Getting to where I am today took a lot of struggle, but let me tell you, the view from where I'm at is one that I'm loving. I have a better understanding of people, and I'm going to be a lot more cautious. Thank you for your time. Hi everyone, I'm Freddie, and I'm 21. My childhood wasn't happy. My dad, Carl, and I didn't get along. We used to be close, but everything changed when he divorced my mom and left us with a lot of money problems. It felt like he left me behind, like I didn't matter to him. He started a new life and focused on himself, his hobbies, and dating. After the divorce, my mom, Yasmin, and I had a tough time. We went from having a good life to struggling to make ends meet. My mom, Yasmin, worked very hard to take care of us after my dad left. She never gave up, even when things were tough. She started a small business and worked hard to make it grow. And it did. Our lives went from being difficult to being comfortable again. It was amazing to see my mom's strength and determination. But then something unexpected happened. My mom got sick. It was a big shock for us. The person who had fought so hard for us was now fighting a serious illness. It was a tough time for us, but we were determined to support her through it. My mom's illness turned our lives upside down. I took care of her and hoped she would get better. We tried everything, but sometimes things don't go as planned. Sadly, my mom passed away, leaving a huge gap in my life that can never be filled. As her only child, I had to face the difficult time after her death alone. While I was grieving, I found out that she had left her house to me. It was her last gift, showing me how much she loved me and the life we shared. When I entered the house, now mine, it felt like my mom was hugging me one last time. The house held many happy and sad memories of our time together. But what hurt me the most was that my dad, Carl, and his new wife, Rita, didn't even come to my mom's funeral. It was like he had completely forgotten about her and didn't care. This made me very angry. How could they be so cruel? Didn't my dad care about how I was feeling? Even months after my mom's death, the pain still felt fresh. I tried to find comfort in memories and friends, but I couldn't shake off the bitter feelings. The house my mom left me was beautiful, but it reminded me of her absence. I tried to make peace with the memories and make the house my own, but it took time. Things were getting better, until one day, my dad, Carl, showed up at my doorstep unexpectedly. It had been months since my mom's funeral, and he acted like nothing was wrong. I opened the door, and our eyes met. He looked surprised to see the pain and anger on my face. He tried to smile, but it didn't work. We stood there in awkward silence, with a lot of unspoken words between us. I was angry and disappointed, and it was hard to keep those feelings inside. Finally, he said, "Hey, Freddie, can we talk?" in a sorry tone, but it didn't feel sincere. His presence in my house brought up a mix of emotions, and I just stared at him. I wasn't fooled by my dad's weak attempt to make things right. "Don't pretend to apologize, Carl. I'm not buying it," I said, my voice filled with anger. "You left us to struggle while you lived a life of luxury. Now you show up like nothing's wrong." Carl's face turned red with anger, and he became defensive. "You need to respect me, Freddie," he said firmly. I laughed in disbelief. "Respect is earned, Carl. You lost mine when you abandoned us for your own desires. You can't demand respect after all the pain you caused." As we argued, I saw Rita getting out of their luxurious car and walking towards us. Seeing her only made me angrier, remembering how my dad chose a life of extravagance over his family. When she reached the doorstep, I said, "What brings you here, Rita? You didn't even come to my mom's funeral, but now you're here." Rita made a weak excuse. "We were busy, Freddie. We had commitments." Her words only made me angrier. "You were too busy to attend my mom's funeral? That shows how little you care about her memory and our family." I felt a surge of anger and frustration as I looked at my dad and Rita standing in front of me. They were still the same selfish people who showed off their wealth and indulged in luxuries. Their presence in my home, acting like nothing was wrong, made me even angrier. "What do you two want from me?" I asked them. "Haven't you hurt me enough already?" "My dad," Carl said, "Freddie, we need to talk. The truth is, our life isn't as great as it seems on social media. We're struggling financially, and we even need to sell the Aston Martin outside to get some money for something important." Rita, who had been quiet until then, took off her coat, revealing her pregnant belly. I was shocked and angry. "You're telling me that you got someone pregnant who's young enough to be my sister? This is a sick joke, right?" I said, my voice filled with anger. Carl, now getting defensive, said some very hurtful things to me. His words were mean and unexpected, and I couldn't believe my father could be so cruel. "You think you're so smart, talking to me like that? I left you and your mom because I couldn't stand being around someone as stupid as you. You're useless and hopeless. I didn't do anything wrong, so shut up." I was shocked and couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just stood there, refusing to accept that my father was speaking to me like this in my own home. "Get out," I said firmly. "Get out before I call the police. Leave my property." Carl smiled slyly and said, "Actually, that's why we're here." "What do you mean?" I asked, my anger rising again. "You're going to have to leave this house, Fred. It's the only option," Carl said, his eyes gleaming with a sinister intent. I was furious, my heart racing with anger. "You're crazy, Carl. My mom gave me this house, the woman you abandoned. You think you can just take it away? Never. You think you deserve this house? Think again, Freddie. We need a bigger and better space for our growing family," Carl said, his words dripping with audacity. My anger was burning brighter than ever. How could he want to start a new family after leaving us just a couple of years ago? He's insane. "You think I'll just leave? My name is on the deed, Carl. This house is legally mine, and you can't take it away," I said, standing my ground. Carl sneered at me. "Are you sure about that, Freddie? I have connections. I know the county clerk, and a simple phone call could make your name on that deed disappear." I was even angrier now. How dare he use his connections to manipulate the system and take what was mine? "You'd stoop that low to steal this house from me? You're no better than a common criminal," I said, my voice strong and forceful. They were taken aback by my intensity, but as they realized they weren't going to win, they looked nervous and scared. They knew they had underestimated me and my determination to protect what was mine and my mom's. With all my strength, I yelled at them to leave my property immediately. They turned pale and finally left the house they had tried to take. Even though he was scared, Carl still tried to intimidate me with threats of ruining my life. "You'll regret not listening to me, Fred," Carl said. "I tried to be nice, but you didn't want that. Just wait, you'll be begging for mercy when I'm done with you." After they left, I was left standing there, my heart racing with anger, frustration, and determination. I knew this battle was far from over. In the silence that followed, I felt a sense of urgency. I knew my father had more power and influence than I did, and his connections and willingness to bend the rules posed a big threat to my dreams of keeping this house. I understood it wouldn't be easy. It wasn't just a fight for a physical space, it was a battle against a system that favored the powerful and well-connected. But I wasn't willing to give up. I would fight hard to protect the legacy my mother left me. The house represented memories, love, and sacrifices. It was a symbol of my identity and my journey towards freedom. With newfound determination, I took a deep breath and prepared myself for the tough journey ahead. The fight for justice had just begun. Weeks after our confrontation, my father still sent me hateful messages and threats. I ignored them, knowing they were meant to hurt me. Instead, I collected evidence, saved every message, and wrote down every word he said. I knew I had to take action, so I went to the county clerk's office. This was the place where my father's plan could become a reality, but I wasn't afraid. I had to face the person who had the power to make decisions. As I entered the office, my heart raced with anxiety and determination. I approached the clerk's desk, where a middle-aged man with tired eyes looked up at me. "Excuse me, sir," I said. "I need to talk to you about something important." The county clerk looked at me with curiosity and skepticism, studying my appearance. "What do you want?" he asked gruffly. I gathered all my courage and poured my heart out to the county clerk, sharing my story and all the struggles my mom and I had faced. I told him about Carl's absence at my mom's funeral and the threats that still haunted me. I showed him the evidence of Carl's manipulation and begged him to see the truth. As I spoke, the clerk's expression changed from indifference to genuine concern. "Please, sir, understand the truth," I pleaded. "Carl has twisted the story to make himself the victim. Don't let him deceive you and take what's rightfully mine. I'm all alone and need your help." The clerk's eyes softened, and he leaned back in his chair, taking a moment to process what I said. "I had no idea," he said, shaking his head. "I have a son around your age, and I can't imagine what you're going through. Carl made himself out to be the victim, saying you were a spoiled brat, but something didn't feel right. Maybe that's why I was hesitant when he asked for his favor." I had a feeling something was wrong, but I didn't realize it was this serious, he said. His words were like a shock to my already hurting heart, but they gave me hope that someone was finally listening. I felt a glimmer of hope that things might work out fairly. "Thank you for listening, sir," I said, my voice full of thanks. "Your understanding means a lot to me. I just want you to see the truth behind Carl's lies." The county clerk nodded, looking determined. "I'll do what's right, but you have to promise not to tell anyone that I'm doing this as a favor. Sometimes I help my friends in ways that aren't exactly legal, so if you tell anyone, I'll find you and make sure you regret it." I swallowed hard, scared of the man in front of me. "Honestly, sir, I don't care if you're not following all the rules. I just want to make sure my house is mine and my father can't control it." "I've got it," he said firmly. "I believe you've been through a lot, and you shouldn't have to worry about owning your house again." Leaving the office, I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. The battle wasn't over yet, but I had hope that the truth would come out and I would get what was mine. I went to my father's house, but it looked empty and abandoned. The fancy furniture was gone, probably sold to prepare for the new baby. After waiting for a long time, Carl finally opened the door, looking terrible. He hadn't slept or showered in days, and seeing me made him even angrier. "What do you want?" Carl growled. "I just came to tell you something," I said, standing up for myself. "I'm keeping the house, and you can't make me leave. So give up trying." "Like hell you are," Carl yelled, his face red with anger. "I'm your father, and I get to decide." "You're no father to me, just a pest," I shot back, my anger rising. Carl sneered. "We'll see about that. I always get what I want." I smiled, feeling triumphant. I already talked to the county clerk, and he's on my side. I have the papers right here, and the house is mine. Carl's face contorted in shock and horror as he realized his plan was falling apart. He stuttered, trying to find words, but I just laughed, celebrating my win. "You can't tell anyone I tried to help you, or we'll both get in trouble," Carl said, his voice desperate. "Looks like you and Rita need to start house hunting," I taunted, rubbing it in. Carl's face fell. "Actually, Rita is leaving me. She's not happy that I couldn't get your house quickly enough, and she's given me an ultimatum." I shrugged. "That's tough for you." Carl's eyes begged me. "Freddie, please, let me move in with you. I can't take it here anymore. Everything is too much for me. I haven't slept or eaten, and Rita is driving me crazy with her demands." I laughed. "You're still acting like a child, even at your age. You think I'm going to let you stay with me? Think again. Try a homeless shelter. They might have room for you." Carl's face twisted in anger. "You're a heartless and thoughtless person. You'll regret this, Freddie." I smiled. "I'm not scared of you, Carl. You're getting what you deserve. Karma's a bitch, isn't it?" As I walked away, I knew Carl's life was going downhill. He became a social outcast, and his alcohol addiction took over. I heard Rita divorced him, took most of his money, and left him alone and hopeless in a hotel room, struggling to figure out his next move. But I knew I had won, and I was ready to fight for anything my mother left me. Carl would never dare to confront me with the same anger and entitlement again. I was no longer a kid, and I had a lot to lose. "I'll fight for anything my mother left me," I said firmly. "And if he's foolish enough to try me again, I'll make sure he regrets it." Hey, I'm Kenneth, but everyone calls me Ken. I just turned 33, and let me tell you, I've got quite a story to share. Before today's events, I didn't really believe in karma or anything spiritual. I thought it was all just in people's heads. But now, I've had a change of heart. I totally believe that what goes around comes around. And it's all because of my mean mother-in-law and her family. Well, except for my amazing wife, she's the exception. Despite growing up around all that negativity, she's still a wonderful person. Now let me tell you about the crazy stuff that happened on a sunny Wednesday morning in my house. Hey, could you come down here real quick? What's up, honey? I need to ask you something, and please, please don't say no. My wife gave me those adorable puppy dog eyes, and honestly, who could resist that? She explained how her mom, Georgina, was coming to town and needed a place to stay. I knew what she was getting at, and I quickly said no. But babe, it's just for the weekend. Can't you handle having a sweet old lady around for a couple of days? Let me tell you, that lady was anything but sweet. She was like pure evil, I kid you not. Dealing with her was like living in a horror movie. I often wonder how my wife turned out so kind despite having such a nightmare for a mother. As I started explaining why I couldn't handle having Georgina around and suggested she stay in a hotel, Kimberly started looking really sad. And like I said, I can't resist her sad face. She's got me wrapped around her finger. So reluctantly, I agreed. Kimberly was over the moon, thanking me like crazy. Since you're being so good about this, I'll make sure she behaves too. Don't worry. Hopefully you won't even have to see each other. It'll all be smooth sailing, I promise. Well, that promise didn't last long because what happened next was totally unexpected. It was Friday afternoon, and Georgina, my mother-in-law, was about to arrive. We prepared the guest room with everything she might need and some stuff she likes, hoping it would keep her from causing drama. Around noon, the doorbell rang. Kimberly, busy in the kitchen, called out, "I think she's here, Kenny. Can you get the door, please?" I prepared myself and opened the door. Standing there was a woman with a not-so-friendly expression. It wasn't a smile. It looked more like a scowl. My mother-in-law, I greeted her. "Hello, Kenneth. Hi there. How was your trip? Are you doing okay?" I welcomed her inside, taking her stuff and doing all the host stuff without being too pushy. But I could feel my irritation building as she started her never-ending complaints. "Wow, Kenneth, the patio looks amazing. Did you do this?" "Yeah, it looks absolutely lovely. I'll need to snap some photos soon." "Oh, could you take those bags upstairs to my room, dear? And could you also make me a coffee? I'd like a caramel macchiato with whipped cream, please." Did she think this was a Starbucks? If you've ever seen A Streetcar Named Desire, you might get an idea of what Georgina was like. She acted just like Blanche, all high and mighty with a touch of fake innocence. She strutted around like she was a gift to the world. I can't stand that kind of arrogance, especially when she's being rude. Just then, Kimberly came out of the kitchen to greet her mom. "You look stunning." "Oh, come on, Kimberly, do I? You're just saying that." "Well, you do look great. It's this new diet I'm on. You should try it. You could use it, sweetheart." "But not this weekend. This weekend is for relaxing. That's why I ordered my caramel macchiato." Speaking of which, Kenneth, when's my coffee going to be ready? I'm thirsty. I need something to drink right now. I might faint. See what I have to deal with. After enjoying a delicious lunch prepared by my wonderful wife, I had to quickly Google how to make a caramel macchiato. Georgina made it her mission to point out every little flaw in the meal, followed by a quick, "It's fine. Don't worry too much" to soften the blow. But she made sure to remind us to be extra careful next time to avoid making those silly mistakes, as she called them. She seemed to enjoy talking down to us, and while I could handle it, I could see it was getting to Kimberly. I mean, how could she not be bothered? That was her mom, after all, and Kimberly didn't have a mean bone in her body. I couldn't say the same for myself, though. I'm the type who likes to get revenge when I can. Later in the afternoon, Georgina went on and on about how much she loved the house. Well, she had a unique way of expressing her love for it. Sure, my time in Bora Bora was nice, but Zanzibar was even better. The scenery was stunning and the people were lovely. This vacation won't be as fancy as those, but it's still a vacation. Maybe it'll humble me a bit, since I've been to so many fancy places. It'll be a nice change of pace, I guess. I'll be honest, I zoned out of the conversation many times, and whenever I checked back in, it was still going on. Georgina had a way of making things drag on longer than they needed to. Anyway, we spent the afternoon chatting, mostly Kimberly and Georgina. I was just there, like a decoration, making sure Kimberly was comfortable. Every now and then, I'd chime in to make it seem like I was paying attention. Around 4 p.m. that evening, cooking started to get a bit weird. You know, Kimberly, I've been complimenting your house ever since I got here, and I have to say, it's stunning. Thanks, Mom. We've been working hard to make it nice, and Kenny and I spent a lot of time getting ready for your visit. It's so good that I can't keep this beauty to myself. What do you mean, Mom? What are you saying? Well, you know, on my trips to places like Cancun, Fiji, or India, I always bring along some friends or family. I don't like traveling alone, especially as I'm getting older. It's become a bit of a tradition for me to have companions like Ursula or Justine. Oh, that sounds nice. How are they? It's been a while since we talked. Funny you ask, because they're actually on their way here now. You can catch up with them yourself. Kimberly nearly chokes on her coffee at this unexpected news. I would have done a spit take too if I had anything in my mouth, because I was shocked at what she just said. But I kept my cool and managed to say, Kim, let's go to the kitchen, now. We headed to the kitchen to talk about this bombshell. Please tell me she's joking, babe. I don't think she's joking, but you only told me she was coming. We only prepped for one person. I'm just as surprised as you are, babe. I didn't know anything until now, just like you. I started pacing in the kitchen. So what do? I guess we'll have to tell her we only prepped for one person, and maybe we can put the girls up in a hotel. They can come over during the day to hang out with Mom. I sighed in frustration. This was also inconvenient, wasn't it? Note the sarcasm. As much as I cared about Ursula and Justine, my aunt-in-law and sister-in-law, I wasn't keen on entertaining them all weekend. They were a bit like their mother, not as bad, but having them all around would be chaotic. We argued about it until Georgina herself showed up in the kitchen. What's the problem? I think it's a nice idea to have other family members join us for the weekend. She started pouting, and strangely, it had the same effect on Kimberly as Kimberly's pouting had on me. When she wanted to, Georgina could get her way with those puppy dog eyes. I guess Kimberly inherited that skill from her mom. Oh no, Mom, please don't be upset. It was a nice thought, but we just can't handle this sudden change, especially on such short notice. Kenny and I were thinking of putting Ursula and Justine up in a nearby hotel, and they can come over during the day. Angeline is also coming with them. So you want 4 extra people in the house? I'm sorry, Georgina, but that's not going to work. Oh, Kenny dear, don't be such a stick in the mud. Jolene has to come. She hasn't been part of the tradition, and she really wants to join in. Plus, she's your younger sister-in-law. We have to make room for her. And honestly, you're not even considered part of our real family, so it makes sense for you to leave and for the girls to stay. It's just for a couple of days after all. Mom, how can you say that? Kenny is our real family. Is he though? You're putting him above your actual sisters. That's not what I meant, Mom. The main issue is space. We're worried there won't be enough room for everyone. I'm glad you brought that up because I've come up with a solution that will please everyone. Okay, let's hear it. Okay, so here's my idea. Ursula and I can share the bed in the guest room since it's big enough, and Jolene can sleep in Kimberly's bed. There was silence. I was completely lost. I looked at my wife, and she seemed just as confused. Finally, I asked, so you want 3 people to sleep in one bed? That's uncomfortable and inappropriate, don't you think? Yeah, Mom, we're adults now. It's not appropriate for me, my husband, and my sister to share a bed. Aha, I knew you'd say that, which is why I think it's best if Kenneth doesn't stay here during this time. Again, silence. At that moment, I think she finally lost it. So you want me to leave my own house? Kenny dear, don't call me that. Kenneth, don't talk to me like that. Kimberly, are you going to let him speak to me like that? Look, I don't appreciate you coming into my house and making last-minute demands. It's not fair. If you wanted a girls' trip, that would have been fine if you planned it in advance. Why didn't you just tell us what you wanted? And saying I'm not your real family was rude. I didn't think you'd get so upset now. Honestly, you're acting childish, don't you think, Kim? I don't know what to say, Mom. I don't think it's fair. Oh, you young people and your sensitivity. I didn't do this on purpose. It must have just slipped my mind. I'm sure you understand. I didn't quite understand, but when I looked at my wife, she was silently pleading with me. I caved in, feeling frustrated, and said, Georgina, better communication would have been appreciated. As I said earlier, I wouldn't have minded if you ladies wanted a girls' trip for the weekend. I could have gone on a trip with the guys or worked at the orphanage. But springing this on us isn't fair. We're adults, even if you see us as your kids. You're a guest in our home, and you need to respect that. I stayed calm and politely pointed out her mistake. She scoffed, walked around, and even laughed at times, seemingly trying to avoid the embarrassment of being confronted by her sister-in-law. Nevertheless, I stood my ground. You want to have a girls' trip and have everyone here for the weekend. Fine, you want me out of the house? That's fine too, but I'll be back after the weekend. With that, I kissed my wife on the cheek and headed to our room. Kimberly tried to reason with her mother, telling her that what she did wasn't okay and that she seriously upset me. But Georgina just laughed it off, treating me like I was overreacting. I packed some clothes in a duffel bag and left. I booked a hotel room online and headed there, but not before stopping by the orphanage where I regularly volunteered. As I mentioned before, the orphanage is called Open Arms, and I love working there. But dealing with unruly and disobedient toddlers, children, and teenagers is no easy task. As I spent the evening playing and helping out the children, I couldn't shake off the thought of how to get back at Georgina. I'm not evil, or at least I don't think I am. But I do believe in teaching people a lesson when they deserve it. I guess that's why I'm good at my job. I had a good connection with the kids, showing them both love and discipline so they wouldn't take advantage of me. We got along well, to the point where some of them could tell something was bothering me. "Ken, is everything okay?" one of them asked. "Yeah, everything's fine," I said, apologizing for losing my cool. I explained the situation to him in simple terms. He was just a kid, after all. But surprisingly, he understood and even sympathized with me. "With all due respect, Ken, your mother-in-law is crazy." "Tell me about it," I replied. "You've got to get back at her somehow, just to teach her a lesson, right?" "But how?" We thought about it for a while, but I couldn't come up with anything. Then Maverick said something that changed everything. "We could help." "What do you mean?" "We could help. If you take a handful of us kids and bring us to your house, we could ruin her weekend." I thought about it, and then it clicked. Maverick, true to his name, was an evil genius. It was a perfect plan. The kids would get a fun weekend away, and I could get back at my mother-in-law for disrespecting me. We made plans like two evil geniuses plotting world domination and waited until the next day to put our revenge into action. The next day, Saturday, went like this. Kimberly answered the doorbell and was surprised to see Maverick and a few other kids. "Why, hello, Kimberly, Kenny." "Oh, Maverick, hello, how are you?" Then she noticed the other kids and looked confused. "What's going on, babe?" "Oh, nothing. I thought I'd bring the kids along to join in Georgina's lovely vacation," I said as I walked into the room, followed by 5 kids aged 6 to 10. They were known as the rowdiest bunch, but they could be sweet when they wanted to be. It was when they felt disrespected that they'd let loose. I promised them ice cream if they caused chaos. "Hello, Kenneth, how are you?" "Oh, who are these lovely children?" "Good morning, Georgina. I hope you're all well. I see the rest of the gang made it. Hey, Kenneth, how are you?" "I'm well, thank you." "Who are these kids?" "Oh, these children. They're from the orphanage." "Yes, we can see that. But why are they here?" "Good question. Maverick, would you like to answer that?" "Well, Ken told us about the lovely vacation you were having in his home. And we've never been on a vacation, so he invited us over to join in." The in-laws, who were sipping mimosas and eating croissants in the living area, gasped in horror and shared looks of disbelief. Some of the kids started grabbing food from the table: bacon, pancakes, orange juice, causing chaos. Georgina stood up and pulled me aside. "What's the meaning of this?" "Just as Maverick said, I wanted the kids to have their own little vacation. I'm sure you wouldn't mind. How can you bring all these kids into the house? This is too much, and someone named Maverick is bound to cause trouble. This was supposed to be a relaxing weekend for me and the girls, you know this." "Oh well, I'm sure you wouldn't mind. It's only for a couple of days after all. Listen, I know you're upset." "No, you listen here, Georgina. I'm tired of you acting like you own the place. If you want to stay here for a vacation, that's fine, but the kids are staying too. They deserve to enjoy just as much as you do. So maybe next time you'll remember it's not nice to inconvenience others." And with that, I didn't give her a chance to respond. I walked back into the living room to see the chaos unfold. "The little girl, don't you dare touch that. That's an expensive designer bag." Stop it. You little troublemakers are causing chaos. Is this what vacations are normally like? Because if so, count me out. The ladies were being harassed by the unruly children, causing chaos. You might wonder how Kimberly felt. She was in the corner snickering. She found it funny too. You might also wonder how I felt watching my house get torn apart. It was worth it to see the looks on my in-laws' faces. I didn't mind cleaning up. Maverick promised they'd help. I just wanted to witness the chaos as the prim older ladies dealt with the chaotic children. Well, everything seems in order. I'll be on my way. I'll pick up the kids tomorrow or Monday. Cheerio. And with that, I left, laughing in my hotel room. I called Kimberly and told her the kids weren't meant to bother her, just the snobby ladies. If she needed a break, she could stay with me. That day was one of the best of my life. Hello, my name is Macy. I'm 42 years old and have been married twice. My second marriage has been wonderful, but my first was a disaster. My first husband's name is Bobby, and we were high school sweethearts. I was a cheerleader and he was a jock. We had a lot of fun together, and he made me happy back then. He was my first boyfriend, so I did everything for him because I thought he was the one I'd be with forever. We planned to go to the same university so we could stay together, but in my second year, when I was 19, I got pregnant. My family was upset, and I wasn't thrilled either. My mom kept telling me that life with Bobby wouldn't be easy. My family never liked him but couldn't really explain why. They just had a bad feeling about him. As a teenager, I wanted to prove them wrong and rebel, so I ignored their concerns. Both our families agreed to support us until we graduated and got good jobs, and I'm still very thankful for that. Bobby and I got married at the courthouse and had our first child. At first, Bobby was a great father, and I felt like I was proving everyone wrong. Then 2 years later, I got pregnant again. By then, I had graduated from college, but I had to quit my job to take care of the kids. Bobby worked 2 jobs to support us. Life was hard. But at that time, I felt that as long as I had Bobby with me, I could handle anything. But a couple of months after our second child was born, Bobby started acting very differently. I tried to talk to him about it, but he wouldn't listen. One day, I took the kids out for a walk and came back to an empty apartment. All of Bobby's things were gone. I panicked, and seeing me panic made the kids cry. I tried calling him several times, but it went straight to voicemail. I remember rushing to my mother's house with the kids crying while I tried not to break down. When my mother opened the door, she looked worried and let us in. "What happened?" she asked. "I think Bobby left me," I said. "What? What do you mean?" I took the kids for a walk, and when we got back, all his stuff was gone. I can't reach him. "Oh no, do you know why he might have left?" "I don't know. He'd been acting very differently for a while. But he wouldn't talk to me. And then today, he just left." "Okay, calm down. We'll wait a while, and if he doesn't come back, we'll file for divorce. I'll help you out." But I loved him. How could he do this to his children? "I know. I wish I could find him for you and ask him all these questions, but we have to move on. Not because he'll heal you, but because you have 2 kids to raise." My mom was right. I spent the next few months painfully getting over him while raising 2 kids who looked a lot like him. I cried myself to sleep many nights, but eventually, months turned into years, and I slowly got over the pain. My kids obviously asked questions about their father, and when they were old enough, I told them the truth. They were devastated but surprisingly understanding. As a family, we learned to live past the pain. My mom was a huge help and made raising 2 kids much easier than it would have been alone. 13 years after Bobby left, I met my current husband, Fred, at a bar during one of my friend's birthday parties. My mom was watching the kids, so I thought it was a good time to relax and have some fun with my friends. Most of the night, I stayed with my friends, chatting and laughing. Towards the end of the night, Fred approached me. My friends had been encouraging me to meet someone for years, but I was too traumatized by Bobby to try. So when Fred came up to me, my friends stepped back to watch as I talked to him. He started by asking if he could buy me a drink. I wasn't going to turn down a free drink, so I said yes. We waited until we got our drinks to start talking. "So what brings you here?" he asked. "Ah, it's my friend's birthday, and I'm just here to celebrate with her," I replied. "That's nice. How about I send over some drinks for all of them?" he offered. "All of them? There are 7 more people there." "It's all right. I'll make up all the money I spent here the next 2 hours, so no worries. So you're rich? Ha. I guess you could say that. Of course, I'm not trying to brag or anything. No, it's a great thing to flaunt. Not a lot of people get to do that, and you aren't being a jerk about it. You're buying a bunch of strangers drinks because I told you it was one of their birthdays. What can I say? I have a particular weakness for pretty women. You're so weak you believe everything they say, even lies. Yes, of course. Although did you lie? He asked with a playful smile. No, it is one of their birthdays. But it is concerning that pretty women make you weak. You should get that checked, I joked. How about you help me with it? Maybe if I had a pretty woman by my side, I'd only have a weakness for one woman, Fred replied with a playful smile. It was a confidence boost to be called pretty by Fred, especially because he was so handsome. He looked like he could be on the cover of Vogue. I surprised myself by flirting back with him. I was usually quite introverted, so I don't know if it was the drink or just Fred's charm, but I felt comfortable being flirty. Eventually, my friends came to get me, thanking Fred for the drinks. Before I left, Fred and I exchanged numbers. From then on, we talked all the time. We started with texts, then moved on to calls whenever we had free time or something interesting to share. We also started meeting up more often. At first, we met in public places, but as time passed, we began hanging out at each other's homes. I was shocked when I saw Fred's house for the first time. It was like a mansion. Fred laughed and told me to get used to his wealth because it would soon be mine. Fred was very open about wanting to marry me. He told me countless times how comfortable he felt around me, and that just made me love him more. He was also completely okay with me having kids. When I told him about Bobby, he was genuinely upset for me. After that, he went above and beyond to show me how much he cared about me. Fred and Bobby were like night and day, and being with Fred made me realize why so many people didn't want me to be with Bobby. I was glad I got out of that relationship, but I hated how it ended. Fred helped me heal and move on from it, which I was incredibly grateful for. We only dated for a year before getting married. We had a destination wedding and flew out our closest friends and family. My kids were thrilled for me and constantly told me how much they loved Fred, which was a huge relief for me. Life from then on was smooth sailing. Fred eased all my worries and even helped with my kids' education, despite me insisting I could handle it. He showed me that he accepted all of us, not just me. He decorated my kids' rooms exactly how they wanted them before we even moved in together. Fred did everything Bobby didn't and more. It was a true turning point for my family, and that's how we grew into what we are today. From then on, Fred and I had a child of our own, but he never treated my kids differently. About a year after our marriage, my kids asked him to legally adopt them, which was another big moment for our family. After that, we became one big family. We did all the things families do, going out to eat, going on vacations, having fun together, you name it. My career was going well, and Fred's company was thriving too. There wasn't a single thing wrong in my life. Before I knew it, 7 years had gone by. Then, one day, out of the blue, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello, I answered. Look who it is. It's Macy. Who is this? Don't you recognize me? I don't think you remember much anyway. It's Bobby here. How are you doing? The voice said. Bobby? What the heck? How did you even get my number? I asked, surprised. I forgot how whiny you are. I just happened to come across your number and thought I'd give you a call to see how you've been. Bobby replied. How has life been treating you since? He asked. Since you left me? Oh, come on, Macy. We were having way too much trouble, and both you and I know that we would have gotten divorced anyway. So you just chose to leave without saying a word. Well, I wanted to avoid all the emotional drama, so I did what I had to do, Bobby said. You are unbelievable, a pretty rich piece of work. Do you even realize the harm you caused me? Leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me. Are you serious right now? Yes, I married a wealthy woman with kids, but I was willing to overlook it because of her money. And it paid off because she got me this amazing job that pays me so much. I'm living my dream. So you abandoned your own kids to take care of someone else's. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? Please never call me again. Goodbye. I was stunned by the sheer audacity of that man to call me just to brag about his new rich lifestyle. Part of me wanted to keep talking to him just to find out where he was, so I could give him a piece of my mind. but I was so overwhelmed with emotions that I could barely think straight. After I hung up on him, I felt hurt, not for myself, but for my kids. They grew up without a father who was too busy taking care of his new wife's children. We struggled, but what did he expect? We were just high school graduates when we had our first child. Where would we have gotten the money for ourselves? At the same time, I felt disgusted. He was the epitome of a sleazebag. He only cared about someone if they had something to offer him. I decided to block his number because I didn't want to deal with him anymore. That chapter of my life had been closed for long enough, and I never wanted it reopened. I told Fred about it later that night, and he was understandably upset but also glad that I blocked Bobby's number. We decided to move forward from that. About a week later, I received another call from an unknown number, and once again, it was Bobby. I was getting frustrated by his constant calls. He called to brag about his luxurious lifestyle, his new expensive car, and how well his kids were doing at school. I didn't bother being polite this time. I just hung up on him. But that didn't stop him. He kept calling every week after that, telling me about his extravagant purchases. I blocked him with every new number he used, but he kept finding ways to reach me. Eventually, I stopped answering his calls altogether because he was becoming a nuisance. It seemed like he enjoyed bothering me. One day, when I was stressed at work, Bobby called me again. "Oh, hey, Macy," he said. "Can't you just leave me alone?" I snapped. "Oh, come on. I'm just trying to make up for lost time," he replied casually. "Well, you're 20 years too late. The kids don't care about you, and neither do I. Leave me alone," I said firmly. "You know you love it, Macy," he replied. "I really don't. I don't want to hear anything about you or your new good life." "Why? Are you jealous? Are you jealous I'm living the life that you'll never be able to live?" he taunted. "I can assure you I'm not." "Well, here's something that will definitely make you jealous. I just got a promotion. I don't give a crap." "You know you're jealous. I just got a promotion at Digitum, one of the finest media companies." "I'm going to hang up," I said, ending the call. I was furious and annoyed after the call, but something Bobby said kept nagging at me. I was too angry to think about it at the moment, so I pushed it aside. When I got back home, I couldn't shake the feeling, and then it hit me. Bobby mentioned working for Digitum, one of the top media companies in our city, and it struck a chord because Fred is the CEO and founder of that company, my husband. I couldn't believe how perfectly the universe had aligned. This meant I finally had a way to teach Bobby a lesson, not just for bothering me, but also for abandoning his children. I waited eagerly for Fred to come home, bubbling with excitement to tell him about my day. "Did something happen? Why do you seem so hyper?" Fred asked when he saw me. "Nothing happened per se, but I did find out something big," I said, unable to contain myself. "Oh, what is it?" he asked, intrigued. Bobby called again. "That sick guy. If I could get my hands on him," Fred started, his anger evident. "That's the thing, he might be closer than we thought," I interrupted. "Huh? What do you mean?" "Well, today he called me to brag about his big promotion at work, and guess where he works?" I said, a grin spreading across my face. "You mean to tell me that he works at my company?" Fred exclaimed, disbelief evident in his voice. "Yeah." At first, I couldn't help but think his company name sounded really familiar, and then it hit me. I explained. "Did you really not remember the company I created?" Fred teased. "Listen, I was way too angry to remember my own name. Cut me some slack," I joked back. I'm kidding. Anyways, do you want me to fire him?" Fred asked. "Absolutely. But before you do, I was wondering if there was any way to humiliate him," I said. "Definitely. Bold of you to think that I wasn't going to fire him in the worst way possible for him," Fred chuckled. With that, we began planning our revenge. We decided to wait a few more weeks before executing our plan to fire him. We would record his calls to me and play them in front of everyone at a big company event in 2 months, which Bobby would be in charge of. There would be several big names present, and we would tarnish his reputation. Over the next few weeks, I answered Bobby's calls calmly, knowing I had the upper hand. I listened to him boast about his wealth and my lack of it, all while recording every conversation. These recordings would come back to haunt him, and I couldn't wait. At the end of the 2 months, the event arrived. Normally, I avoided big crowds, but this time, I wanted to see Bobby's downfall while I sat on the throne. Fred bought me a stunning expensive dress for the occasion. I stayed in the car until Fred called me, not wanting Bobby to see me and run. I entered when Fred introduced me during his speech. As I walked on stage, Bobby's face dropped. I smirked as I passed him, watching him sweat. Fred praised me and spoke about our wonderful years together, raising my kids. With every word of praise, Bobby seemed to sweat more. I beamed with pride as the crowd applauded me. Then Fred's speech took a surprising turn. He spoke about how I had been harassed by my ex-husband recently, detailing how he had abandoned me and our kids to start a new family with someone wealthy. But fate had a twist in store because my ex-husband worked for Fred's company. The crowd murmured in shock, speculating about who my ex could be. Fred quieted them down, promising to reveal the identity. He pointed at Bobby, declaring him to be my ex-husband. The crowd buzzed with disbelief. Bobby looked like he might faint, realizing there was no way out. Fred wasn't finished, he had proof. He played the recordings of Bobby's calls to me, exposing his behavior. Bobby froze as the truth unfolded. Fred announced that due to Bobby's actions he was fired. The crowd cheered as Fred and I left the stage. Bobby was escorted out, and the event continued smoothly. Revenge was served, and it tasted sweeter than anything else. "You're quite bold to call me again after last night," I answered the unknown caller. "You tricked me," the voice on the other end exclaimed. "What do you mean?" I asked innocently. You absolute witch. Don't play dumb with me. How could you not tell me that you were married again, and to my boss no less?" "As I've told you before, Bobby, I simply didn't care about you," I replied calmly. "I know that, but the least you could have done was inform me," he retorted. "So you would only stop harassing me if you knew who my husband was? And if my husband wasn't your boss, you would have continued." I countered. "Don't twist my words," Bobby protested. "I'm not twisting anything. And if we're talking about decency, Bobby, let's talk about you abandoning your family. If you could do that, I can certainly do this. Enjoy your new life, and I hope you find a new job," I said firmly. "I don't have a family anymore. My wife left me because of yesterday, and she took the kids. And it's all because of you," Bobby lamented. "I didn't do anything. You did this to yourself. Goodbye, Bobby, and good luck," I replied, ending the call. It felt empowering to finally stand up to Bobby and know that I had caused him to lose everything. I hope he learns never to mess with me or my family again. Fred and I continue to thrive together, and our kids have grown into wonderful adults. My life is peaceful once again, and I no longer stress about Bobby's calls. I finally feel vindicated and free. Thank you for listening to my story.